819 Your Royal Highness, please don't be mad too. She couldn't believe she had managed to survive all that. When she was finally out of harm's way, she had to endure Jun Linyuan, who was calling her pig and idiot. Jun Linyuan went on yelling at her. Do you have any idea how much trouble you alone brought the college? Everyone had to put down what they were doing to save you. Look at all those candidates behind you. They almost lost their chance this year because of you. Jun Linyuan glared at Feng Wu. Mu Yaoyao, Gong Sun Qing, and the other girls sighed inwardly, relieved. They were right. Feng Wu liked His Royal Highness, but His Royal Highness had no feelings for her whatsoever. If he were in love with her, he would be treating all those cuts on her face already, not yelling at her. It was so obvious that His Royal Highness was on their side. At that thought, they felt much happier. However, Xian Yi darted a look at Jun Linyuan. He gave the crown prince a knowing look. Feng Sun, on the other hand, found Jun Linyuan very strange. This wasn't right. His Royal Highness was such an aloof person, but he had been talking way too much today. That just didn't feel right. However, Feng Sun couldn't hold his tongue anymore when he saw how sorry Feng Wu looked at Jun Linyuan's reprimand. He stepped out and put himself between Feng Wu and Jun Linyuan. Boss Jun, it was Xiao Wu's fault, alright, but she just narrowly escaped death. Please forgive her. Jun Linyuan wouldn't be so mad if Feng Sun didn't step in. For some unknown reason, the crown prince flared up at Feng Sun's interjection. He glowered at Feng Sun. Out of my way. Shit. Feng Sun's stomach lurched. Having grown up with Jun Linyuan, he knew the latter better than anyone else. The guy was really pissed. Boss Jun. Now that Boss Jun was really mad, Feng Sun wanted to protect Feng Wu even more. Keeping his eyes on Jun Linyuan, Feng Sun warned Feng Wu in a whisper, run. Little Feng Wu, run. What? Boss Jun is going to kill you. Feng Wu was baffled. Seriously? Although she had no idea what she had done wrong, she saw that Jun Linyuan was indeed glaring at her as if she had just killed his father. That was crazy. Feng Wu took one step back, then another. She then spun around and ran. However, she was only able to take a few steps. Boss Jun. Feng Sun cried out, for his boss Jun disappeared from sight, moving as quick as a streak of lightning. The next second, Jun Linyuan had grabbed Feng Wu by the back of her collar. That shocked everyone. His Royal Highness picked Feng Wu up as if she were just a chicken, then he took Feng Wu away, just like that. He carried her away, lifting her up by the back of her collar. Feng Wu struggled violently and cried out, let go of me. Jun Linyuan, put me down. However, the crown prince only continued walking with a perfectly straight back, as if he could neither see nor hear her. The others were all baffled. Mu Yaoyao said suddenly, is His Royal Highness going to kill Feng Wu? Gong Sun Qing asked, then bury her in the woods. Feng Sun shuddered at those words. Judging by how much Boss Jun disliked Feng Wu, he might actually do it. Feng Sun ran out after them. Boss Jun. Boss Jun. However, Jun Linyuan was moving too fast for Feng Sun to catch up. They were nowhere to be seen. 820 Your Royal Highness, please don't be mad 3. Watching from behind while the crown prince took Feng Wu away, Mu Yaoyao felt a tinge of jealousy while she also rejoiced at Feng Wu's predicament. There was a tiny voice in her head, saying that she wished she was the one in the crown prince's grip. Mu Yaoyao snorted. Feng Wu is going to die, isn't she? Gong Sun Qing smirked. I don't think she's coming back. The other girls around them all had expectant looks in their eyes as well. At the same moment, Feng Wu put me down. Jun Linyuan, hands off me. Feng Wu felt so humiliated. Kicking her legs, she tried to free herself from Jun Linyuan's grip, but the reality was that all her efforts were futile. I'm not a chicken, don't manhandle me. Jun Lin Yuan. Put me down now or I'm going to be very mad. Feng Wu seethed with anger. The next second, Jun Lin Yuan snorted and tossed Feng Wu onto a nearby haystack. Thump. Ouch. Feng Wu cried out in pain and glared at Jun Lin Yuan. The crown prince's mouth curled into a crooked smile. Now you can feel pain. Feng Wu retorted in an accusing tone, I'm covered in wounds and I'm a normal human being. Every part of me hurts even when I breathe. Then why did you injure yourself? I didn't ask for this. Why can't you just finish the exam peacefully like everyone else? Why did you have to mess with magical beasts you can't handle? They messed with me. Ha! You don't believe me? Ha! Feng Wu had had enough mishaps since the physical tryout started, not to mention that she had cuts and bruises all over her body. She couldn't take Jun Lin Yuan's sarcasm anymore. Jun Lin Yuan. What kind of attitude is that? Jun Lin Yuan frowned at her. Feng Wu snapped, I don't have a death wish and I certainly didn't go after those magical beasts myself. I would have loved to stay far away from them. But I just had such bad luck. They kept coming after me, one after another. Jun Lin Yuan had a brooding look in his eyes. Feng Wu gave a wave of her hand in a magnanimous manner. Well, was it you who saved me earlier? I won't yell at you if that's the case. Jun Lin Yuan raised his chin. He didn't like being scolded to his face, and he replied with a smirk, who the hell do you think you are? Don't flatter yourself. What makes you think I would ever save you? Feng Wu stared at Jun Lin Yuan. It wasn't you. Jun Lin Yuan ignored her question. Who else did she think it could be? She would have been beyond saving if he had arrived a minute later. Jun Lin Yuan had lingering fear at that realization, and his gaze turned even more piercing. He looked so relentless. Feng Wu bit her lower lip. She had actually believed he was her savior, which was why she had put up with his manners so far. But she was wrong. And what did he say to her? Who the hell do you think you are? Don't flatter yourself. What makes you think I would ever save you? Feng Wu was pissed. A lump seemed lodged in Feng Wu's throat and she felt suffocated. With a snort, she rose to her feet and turned to leave. Where do you think you're going? Jun Lin Yuan shouted after her. To find a quiet place to treat my wounds. And don't follow me. I don't want to see your face. Throwing Jun Lin Yuan a dirty look, Feng Wu stormed off. She didn't know what was going on with her. She could block out all the cutting remarks from other people, but Jun Lin Yuan's criticism always set her off without fail. 821 Your Royal Highness, please don't be mad for. How could she let this man manipulate her emotions like this? The realization made Feng Wu clench her fists in rage. Once Feng Wu left without hesitation, Jun Lin Yuan couldn't control his temper anymore. He exploded. That stupid girl. Who the hell did she think she was? She was prouder than a peacock. Jun Lin Yuan was no less proud than Feng Wu. After what Feng Wu said, he decided that he wouldn't follow her anymore. Moreover, he promptly turned to leave. Back at the campsite, dozens of candidates had gathered there. Jun Lin Yuan and his friends were there. As well as Xian Yuan Yi's team, Mu Yao Yao among them. Gong Sun Qing's team was there as well. It was a boisterous scene at the campsite. People were setting up stoves, boiling water, and preparing their meals. Everyone was talking at the same time and there was a hubbub of noise. Next to Mu Yao Yao, Princess, I think there's more to Feng Wu than we saw. Yao Ying's face was ruined, but she had met up with Mu Yao Yao, along with Hua Yin, Wen Ling, and the other minions. Mu Yao Yao was roasting some skewered meat over a fire while chewing on the fact that the crown prince had taken Feng Wu away. She cast a stern look at Yao Ying at those words. Yao Ying cringed, but after a brief moment of hesitation, she went on stirring up trouble. Princess, do you remember what it was like when His Royal Highness took Feng Wu away? They looked quite familiar with each other. Mu Yaoyao bellowed, that's because that shameless Feng Wu won't leave His Royal Highness alone. Yao Ying flinched, but she wouldn't give up. But Feng Wu couldn't have forced His Royal Highness to pick her up. Don't you find it strange? By strange, she meant intimate. Yao Ying had thus sown a seed of suspicion in Mu Yaoyao's mind. Seeing that Mu Yaoyao was swayed, Yao Ying snorted inwardly. Feng Wu, that's for ruining my face. I may not be able to get to you myself, but I can take my revenge through other people. Sitting opposite them, Gong Sun Qing heard every word of their conversation. Is Feng Wu on familiar terms with His Royal Highness? Gong Sun Qing looked displeased. That's right, said Hui Yin. Feng Wu is infatuated with His Royal Highness. She followed him all the way from northern border city to the imperial capital. Everyone knows that. Gong Sun Qing said, then what about His Royal Highness? Hui Yin recalled what Yao Ying had just said, and something clicked in her head. Gong Sun Qing wouldn't hold a grudge against Feng Wu if she was told that His Royal Highness didn't have any feelings for the girl. If that was the case, Hui Yin wouldn't be able to use Gong Sun Qing to get her revenge. As for how Hui Yin knew about Gong Sun Qing's feelings for His Royal Highness, it was written all over Gong Sun Qing's face. Moreover, it was an open secret that 9 out of 10 teenage girls in the imperial capital were fond of His Royal Highness. His Royal Highness was every girl's Prince Charming. His Royal Highness didn't have any feelings for Feng Wu before, or he wouldn't have called off the marriage. But with Feng Wu following him around all this time, I think things have changed. At those words, Gong Sun Qing narrowed her eyes and her face darkened. That sordid Feng Wu. Just then, Jun Linyuan came back, looking furious. Surrounded by a dark aura, he gave off an air colder than ice. He was too intimidating for anyone to get close to. Everywhere he went, the temperature plummeted, extinguishing the burning campfires right away. He was that kind of person, the moment he showed up, all eyes were on him. 822 Your Royal Highness, please don, be mad 5. Your Royal Highness. His Royal Highness is back. His Royal Highness doesn't look too pleased. Has someone offended His Royal Highness? Who do you think? His Royal Highness left with Feng Wu a moment ago, she's probably the culprit. So, is Feng Wu dead? That question lingered in everybody's heads. Mu Yaoyao smirked. I don't know about that, but I do know that His Royal Highness doesn't like Feng Wu at all. She darted a glance at Yao Ying as she spoke. What had Yao Ying said about His Royal Highness just then? Yao Ying rubbed her nose. Damn that Feng Wu. Her plan had been sabotaged, just like that. Gong Sun Qing let out a breath of relief as well. So, His Royal Highness really didn't like Feng Wu. What else did they expect? Of course His Royal Highness would never fall in love with a good-for-nothing who couldn't even cultivate. Just then, Feng Sun rushed out. Looking around, he only saw Jun Linyuan, and Feng Wu was nowhere to be seen. He got worried. Boss Jun, where's my sister? Where did you take her? The more Feng Sun thought about it, the more flustered he became. Had his unruly sister finally pissed Boss Jun off so badly that Boss Jun killed her? Crossing his hands behind his back, Jun Linyuan snorted. I don't give a damn. Jun Linyuan then went back to his tent. I don't give a damn. At those words, all the girls who still had suspicions about the relationship between the Crown Prince and Feng Wu were reassured. Not only wasn't His Royal Highness in love with Feng Wu, he couldn't care less about her. Great. Many were thrilled, especially the girls. After the Crown Prince went back to his tent, they gave toasts and celebrated the news. Feng Sun was exasperated. He wanted to go out and search for Feng Wu. Xian Yi didn't know what to say. Having realized Boss Jun's true feelings for Feng Wu, Xian Yi knew that the crown prince was only lying to himself, but Feng Sun didn't. Xian Yi grabbed Feng Sun's arm. Calm down. Feng Sun flared up and glared at Xian Yi. My sister is dying out there and you're telling me to calm down? I see. She's not your sister. After that, Feng Sun threw Xian Yi's hand off and shoved the latter away. Xian Yi's mouth fell open. At the same moment, Feng Wu thought the endless snowfield stretched out on all sides. Beneath the thick layer of ice under her feet was a rolling river. The ice was thick enough for Feng Wu to walk on without it cracking. She had been walking non-stop after the row with Jun Linyuan. The freezing wind howled, which made her head swim. She felt awful. She stumbled all of a sudden, and right next to her was an opening in the ice which covered the river. Oh my, silly girl, are you going to throw yourself into the river? A teasing voice rang out above her head. Feng Wu looked up right away. It was none other than Yu Minji. Feng Wu was thrilled to see Yu Minji. Taking his hand, she asked with sparkling eyes, Yu Minji? Is it really you? Are you all right? Yu Minji had gone to the center of the snowfield all by himself for her. He had woken up that terrifying frosty night beast. The risk he had taken was unimaginable. Putting a hand on Feng Wu's tiny waist, Yu Minji stared at her with his amorous eyes. His smile was mesmerizing. His voice was exceptionally husky. Silly girl, the concerned look on your face will make me think that you actually care about me. 823 2 Goofballs 1. But I do care about you. Feng Wu tugged at Yu Minji's sleeve and they sat down by the river. Feng Wu then asked, Hey, what happened to that frosty night beast? Did you get the heart? Yu Minji looked frustrated. She did it again. Every time he said something flirtatious, she was able to ruin the moment with a single sentence. She was staring at him with her limpid eyes, which made his heart skip a beat. This girl was the only girl that had ever made him feel this way. Seeing the dazed look on Yu Minji's face, Feng Wu waved a hand in front of his face. Yu Minji. Hello. Are you in there? No, I'm not. Yu Minji went on flirting. Feng Wu smacked his head grumpily. Be serious. Ouch, Yu Minji held his head with both hands. I'm only telling the truth. You're so aggressive. I'm probably the only man that can handle you. You should marry me, seriously. Seriously, Yu Minji, are you ever going to stop? Are you having fun saying such things? Cut the crap. Yu Minji was so fluent in lover's prattle that Feng Wu didn't believe a word he said. She only thought he was making fun of her. Frustrated, Yu Minji mumbled, You don't believe me? Am I that untrustworthy? Feng Wu glanced at him. Do you still remember that girl in Frozen Forest? Right. Yu Minji was rendered speechless at the mention of that girl. Resting her hands on her waist, Feng Wu grinned. I recall that you described the girl as more beautiful than a fairy and that it was love at first sight for you. You said that you would marry her and her alone and that. Yu Minji's face was scarlet red. As a matter of fact, the girl's face was a blur already, but he could never forget those bright eyes, not for the rest of his life. That girl. Recalling what that ugly girl did to him in Frozen Forest, Yu Minji gritted his teeth. I swear I'll find her and marry her. Feng Wu chuckled. Wait. Yu Minji suddenly had a strange feeling. Feng Wu's twinkling eyes overlapped with that girl's. Yu Minji reached out all of a sudden. Covering the top of Feng Wu's head with one hand and the lower part of her face with the other, he made sure that only Feng Wu's beautiful bright eyes were exposed. They looked so alike. Yu Minji was astonished. They were almost identical. They could be the same person. How can they look so alike? Yu Minji murmured. Feng Wu was screaming inwardly. Had she known that mentioning the girl he met in Frozen Forest would remind Yu Minji of all sorts of things, she would never have done so. But it was too late to regret it. What are you talking about? Feng Wu knew perfectly well what Yu Minji meant, but she still shoved him away, pretending to be impatient. You two look so alike. Are you her? Yu Minji said all of a sudden. Feng Wu stared at Yu Minji. What was that? Who am I supposed to be? Yu Minji was lost in his memory, and out of the blue, he said, Did I tell you how I ran into that girl in Frozen Forest? 824 Two Goofballs 2. Feng Wu's stomach lurched. Had he? Or hadn't he? She didn't care. It had been so long ago and Feng Wu had forgotten about it. But she would go on denying it no matter what. Of course you did. You told me yourself. Why else would I know about it? Feng Wu said matter-of-factly. She had to count on her acting to fool Yu Minji. Feng Wu realized that after all the traps she had set for other people, she had jumped into one she had dug herself. And she had been doing it over and over again. She wanted to cry now. Yu Minji rubbed his head. I told you that. Feng Wu said matter-of-factly, how else would I know about it? But you two are. The more Yu Minji thought about it, the stranger he found it. She had no spiritual essence, and neither do you. Both of you know Jun Linyuan. She showed up in Frozen Forest, which is next to Northern Border City, and you were living in Northern Border City then. She had medical skills, and so do you. She. Feng Wu's heart sank. She would be forced to tell the truth if she let Yu Minji carry on with his speculation. Was she as pretty as I am? Feng Wu smiled at Yu Minji. That cut Yu Minji off right away. Tell me, was she? No. Problem solved, then. Feng Wu darted a meaningful look at the teenager. Yu Minji, did that girl offend you or something? Or did she steal something from you? Judging from how eager you sounded, I thought she stole your heart. But then, you fell in love with me. That's why you want me and that girl to be the same person. That way, you don't have to feel guilty anymore. Yu Minji scratched his head. He was completely lost. It's cold out here at night. I need to head back now. You coming? Feng Wu wanted to distract Yu Minji from the subject, so that he wouldn't remember any more details that she didn't want him to. Well, Yu Minji seemed to be convinced and he followed Feng Wu after mumbling to himself. By the way, how are you doing? Recovered yet? Feng Wu grabbed the opportunity to change the subject. I've always been quick to recover. Although, how did you know I was hurt? Feng Wu's eyes widened. Did you save me? Yu Minji said in a mysterious tone, take a wild guess. So, it was really you. Feng Wu heaved a sigh of relief. That's why he wouldn't admit it. You were the one who helped me. He wouldn't admit it. You're referring to Jun Linyuan? Yes. Yu Minji thought about denying it. After all, he didn't do it and he shouldn't take the credit. However, it had something to do with Jun Linyuan. Yu Minji had always considered Jun Linyuan his archenemy, and he grinned. Yu Minji would never miss a chance to piss Jun Linyuan off. That's right. I was the one who saved you. Yu Minji grinned. Feng Wu didn't even want to think about that arrogant look on Jun Linyuan's face. Hey, what happened to that frosty night beast? You haven't told me yet. Yu Minji immediately wrinkled his nose. What? Did something go wrong? Feng Wu frowned. Yu Minji sighed. As soon as I was teleported in, I headed for the center of the region. Following the map you gave me, I was able to find the place where the frosty night beast was hibernating. Feng Wu nodded and stared at him anxiously, waiting for him to go on. 825 Two Goofballs 3. However, when I got to that frosty night beast, I realized that. You realized what? That. However, a figure ran into sight before Yu Minji could finish his sentence. Thump. The person smacked Yu Minji on the head. The strike was so sudden and so hard that Yu Minji's vision went dark for a brief moment. Feng Wu jumped up in surprise. She turned around to find Feng Sun behind them. However, before she could do anything, Yu Minji had charged out while yelling angrily. Feng Sun. How dare you hit me? I'm gonna kill you. I hit you, so what? Bring it on. I'm gonna kick your ass. No, I'm gonna kick yours. Feng Wu was exasperated. They were upstream on a river that had been formed by a melted glacier. Underneath, a stream of magma had turned the ice into water. Natural hot springs had formed as a result, and the air was always misty. Because of that, the ice layer was rather thin in this area and cracked easily. You too. Stop. However, she was too late. The two teenagers, who never failed to break into a fight whenever they ran into each other, had already begun to exchange blows. Feng Sun glowered at Yu Minji. That's my sister back there. How dare you put your paw on her shoulder? I'm gonna kill you. Yu Minji grinned. Your sister? Bullshit. If you can call her sister, I can call her my wife. What's wrong with holding my own wife's shoulder? It's none of your business, brother-in-law. Feng Sun screamed, shut up. I'm not your brother-in-law. My beautiful sister will never hook up with an idiot like you. Yu Minji said, and my wife is too brilliant to have a goofy brother like you. Who are you talking to, you goofball? The goofball is talking to you. Mwahahaha, you just admitted that you're a goofball. You're so dumb. Go to hell. Thump. 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 The fight started again. Feng Wu watched with an open mouth. To call these two childish was an understatement. If they had to fight, they should at least put their minds to it. However, the two wouldn't shut up while trying to punch each other in the face. Their babbling was worse than the fight itself. As they fought, an iceberg a short distance away began to fall apart. Feng Wu cried out anxiously, stop. Both of you. Just stop. Yu Minji yelled, he's pretending to be your brother. I know he's trying to become my brother-in-law. If I let him, my reputation will be ruined. Feng Sun was furious. Shut up. My sister is as wonderful as a fairy, she'll never marry a moron like you. I'm going to sew your mouth up. I won't let you ruin my sister's reputation like this. Mwahahaha. Little Feng Wu is meant to be my wife. I'm going to ask for my father's permission and little Feng Wu is going to marry me. Feng Sun was so mad. She was his only sister and he had made a promise to keep her safe forever. Yu Minji. Die. No, you die first, little Feng Sun. Thump. 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 After some bickering, the two guys went back to fighting. Thump. 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 Snow was kicked up and scattered everywhere. Icebergs collapsed and fell into the river, creating tidal waves. 826 His Royal Highness is here. Snow was kicked up and scattered everywhere. Icebergs collapsed and fell into the river, creating tidal waves. The water in the hot spring wasn't lukewarm, but boiling hot. The bubbles gurgled. Because of that, scalding hot magma shot up into the air before showering down again. The ice layer melted under the heat of the magma and grew thinner. If she didn't stop them now, this layer of ice would break apart and all three of them would be in danger. Those two morons. Without hesitation, Feng Wu rushed over and put herself between them. Ah! Feng Sun had just struck out with a fist, and the next thing he saw was his sister standing right in front of him. The girl would be turned into mush if she got hit. Whoosh! Feng Sun changed the direction of his blow at the last minute and his fist struck empty air. He nearly dislocated his shoulder. And it was the same case with Yu Minji. If he hadn't drawn back his fist at the last minute, Feng Wu would have been smashed into a pulp. Stop it. Now. Feng Wu was fuming with anger. One was a young lord and the other the crown prince of the Yu Empire, but they were fighting like two ruffians. It was unbelievably childish. Feng Sun and Yu Minji were dazed for a moment. Gosh! What are you doing standing there? Staring at Feng Wu, Feng Sun tried to pull her to his side. Get your hands off my wife. Yu Minji was displeased and reached out for Feng Wu's other hand. She's my sister. She's my wife. Bring it on. That's right. Bring it on. They almost broke into another fight right away, and Feng Wu was infuriated. Do you two have a death wish? Shut up. Feng Wu roared. Her voice cracked in the air like a thunderclap, so loud that their ears buzzed. A short distance away, a large block of ice fell off an iceberg at the impact. Feng Sun blinked at Feng Wu, looking very innocent. Yu Minji also stared at Feng Wu with his limpid doe eyes. The two of them acted as if they hadn't done anything wrong. With their exquisite features, it felt impossible to yell at them when they pleaded with their eyes. However, Feng Wu wasn't just anyone. She threw a dirty look at Feng Sun, then glared at Yu Minji. Quit calling me your wife. I've had enough of that. Feng Sun grinned, looking very pleased. Yu Minji didn't like the sound of that. That way, he can't call you sister either. Feng Wu smirked. Actually, I'm really his sister. Yu Minji was dumbfounded. Feng Sun patted Yu Minji on the shoulder. Young man, you'll have to go through me if you want to court my sister. And even if Yu Minji passed his test, Feng Sun's answer would be, never. Yu Minji ignored Feng Sun and turned to Feng Wu. I'll get an edict from my father to marry you. Little Feng Wu, trust me. Feng Wu didn't like the sound of that at all. However, Yu Minji didn't notice. He took Feng Wu's hand and said in a solemn voice, Little Feng Wu, you have my word. You'll be Empress when I become Emperor. Feng Wu wanted to throw his hand off, but Yu Minji's grip was too tight. All of a sudden, Feng Wu sensed a pair of eyes staring at the hand that Yu Minji was holding. The gaze was so intense that she felt a tingling sensation on her skin. 827 His Royal Highness is pissed. Her hand felt as if it was on fire. Sensing the heat, Feng Wu drew back her hand. Boss Jun. Feng Sun turned around to find Jun Linyuan standing behind them, and he ran toward the latter in excitement. Boss Jun, please say something. Little Feng Wu is your cousin, that's as good as a half-sister. Face dark, the crown prince stared at Feng Wu with a murderous look in his eyes. The animosity he gave out was enough to make one shudder. Feng Sun's stomach lurched. Glancing from Jun Linyuan to Feng Wu, Xian Yi smiled a little, a knowing look on his face. This was going to be interesting. He rubbed his chin. Would Boss Jun come to his senses at whatever happened next, and finally be forced to admit his true feelings? Jun Linyuan scanned the area with a grim look on his face. He looked as if he was ready to kill. What Feng Sun said next didn't make things any better. Boss Jun, did you hear what Yu Minji said? He's crazy. He called little Feng Wu his wife. And he said he was going to marry little Feng Wu and take her back to the Yu Empire. I won't allow it. She's my only sister. Boss Jun, you have to help me. I can't let him take little Feng Wu away. Feng Sun wouldn't be Yu Minji's match if the latter got serious. He had to turn to Jun Linyuan for help. The crown prince was obviously displeased. His face darkened like the sky before a storm. His gaze was as sharp as a blade out of its sheath. It glinted. Jun Linyuan stared at Feng Wu, as if he was going to cut her into pieces. Yu Minji pulled Feng Wu back and shielded her with his body. No man should hit a woman. Take it out on me. Little Feng Wu, I'll protect you. Feng Wu stood behind Yu Minji, but Jun Lin Yuan's sharp gaze seemed to pierce through Yu Minji's body and stab into her heart. She shuddered. Jun Lin Yuan took a step forward, but kept his gaze on Feng Wu and Yu Minji. Yu Minji's stomach lurched. Stop right there. I'm warning you. Don't come any closer. However. Thump. Jun Lin Yuan shoved Yu Minji away with a wave of his hand. Poor Yu Minji. He had easily gained the upper hand with Feng Sun earlier, but with one little push from Jun Lin Yuan, he fell into the scalding magma. Yu Minji. Feng Wu cried out anxiously. Jun Lin Yuan didn't give her any chance to help Yu Minji. Grabbing her hand, he dragged her away. His face had been very grim since the beginning, and his hand around Feng Wu's wrist was as cold as the look in his eyes. Feng Wu was terrified. This was so frightening. But she was still worried about Yu Minji. Yu Minji, how are you doing? You. The next second. Jun Lin Yuan grabbed Feng Wu by her throat and lifted her off the ground. His fingers wrapped around Feng Wu's neck, suffocating her. Feng Wu's face turned from pale to purple in a matter of seconds. She kicked and struggled, but all her efforts were futile. She looked at Jun Lin Yuan and saw the murderous look in his eyes. What a formidable crown prince. He was capable of anything. Exasperated, Feng Sun rushed over and grabbed Jun Lin Yuan's wrist. His voice trembled. Boss Jun, why are you doing this to little Feng Wu? She didn't do anything wrong. Please put her down. 828 Is she going to die? Xian Yi watched this in astonishment as well. Boss Jun was really. This wasn't what Xian Yi had in mind at all. Given what Boss Jun was doing, no one in their right mind would think that he was fond of Feng Wu. A short distance away, Mu Yaoyao and Gong Sun Qing were hiding behind a pile of snow. They had been keeping an eye on the crown prince, and seeing Jun Lin Yuan leave with Xian Yi, the two girls followed them out. They kept their distance for fear of being spotted. Therefore, they didn't see what happened earlier. The only thing they saw was that the crown prince had picked Feng Wu up by her neck and was choking her. Instinctively, Feng Wu struggled violently. However, all her efforts were futile. Mu Yaoyao and Gong Sun Qing exchanged looks, and both saw fright in each other's eyes. Immediately after that, however, both rejoiced at Feng Wu's predicament. Before, no matter how hard they tried to persuade themselves, they still hadn't been convinced deep down. After all, His Royal Highness had carried Feng Wu off, and their interactions looked suspiciously intimate. Hence, they were very alarmed by Feng Wu's presence. But now that His Royal Highness was going to kill Feng Wu, he looked so relentless. So, to His Royal Highness, Feng Wu was no more than an ant that he wouldn't hesitate to stomp on at any moment. The two girls exchanged gloating looks again before slinking off, as if they had never been there. Feng Sun was exasperated. Boss Jun. She's my sister and that makes her as good as half a sister of yours. Put her down now. You're killing her. Xian Yi couldn't keep his silence either. Boss Jun. You're doing it wrong. This won't do. Feng Wu's face turned purple in color. Her vision went dark and she could see shadows in the air. She was overwhelmed by the fear of death. Was she going to die? A despairing look appeared on Feng Wu's face. Thump. Jun Lin Yuan released her neck. Feng Sun rushed over to catch Feng Wu before she fell, and lay her flat on the ground. How do you feel? Little Feng Wu, are you alright? Feng Sun patted Feng Wu's cheek anxiously, which made Feng Wu dizzy. She looked up and glared at Jun Lin Yuan. He hadn't actually lost control, and was only trying to scare her, but what he did had crossed the line. Feng Wu was furious. The look she gave Jun Lin Yuan reminded one of a bloodthirsty young beast. Seeing the ferocious look Feng Wu gave him as she gasped for air, Jun Lin Yuan promptly turned to leave. After shooting another look at his back, Feng Wu turned the other way to look for Yu Minji. Other people would have been completely dissolved by the magma, but luckily, it was Yu Minji who had fallen in. When he climbed out, all he had were a few patches of red skin. Feng Wu took off her cape at once and threw it over Yu Minji's shoulders. "How do you feel? Any pain? Give me your hand." After checking his pulse, Feng Wu let out a breath of relief. "Good, there isn't much excessive fire energy in you. You'll be fine once that's out of your system. There won't be any complications." Jun Linyuan turned around after a few steps and saw that Feng Wu was looking after Yu Minji. He exploded again, and the cold air he gave off was terrifying. The temperature dropped again. Crack! The thick layer of ice under their feet cracked, and the fissure expanded rapidly like a spider web. Feng Wu was shocked. Without thinking, she grabbed Yu Minji's arm and pulled him to his feet. "Run!" 829 Why is His Royal Highness offended again? Whoosh! Jun Linyuan watched as Feng Wu and Yu Minji dashed off, while he himself was left behind. The Crown Prince was furious. Once they were off the ice, Feng Wu didn't want to go back to the campsite, so she led Yu Minji in another direction. Thump! All of a sudden, an ice wall erupted out of the ground. Feng Wu almost bumped into it. Luckily, Yu Minji stopped her in time. Feng Wu turned around and threw a dirty look at Jun Linyuan. She then led Yu Minji in another direction. Thump! She ran into another ice wall. They changed direction again. She ran into another ice wall. Another direction. Feng Wu was speechless. Taking a deep breath, she led Yu Minji back to Jun Linyuan and glared at the Crown Prince. "Jun! Lin! Yuan! What on earth do you want? Haven't you had enough fun?" Jun Linyuan stared at Feng Wu and Yu Minji's linked hands with his brooding eyes for a moment before he spoke in a cold voice. "Not yet. I still want to cut off an arm." There was something crazy yet serious in Jun Linyuan's eyes. He meant it. Feng Wu released Yu Minji's hand involuntarily. Jun Linyuan's gaze was so intense that it seemed to burn Feng Wu's skin. He then said, "You don't want to know what will happen if you don't go back to the campsite." His voice was so cold that it gave her the creeps. Looking at Jun Linyuan's back as he left, Feng Wu was overwhelmed with emotion. She was furious and aggrieved. Feng Sun tugged at Feng Wu's sleeve. There. Let's go back to the campsite now. Don't even think about defying Boss Jun. You'll really get killed for it." After that, Feng Sun tried to push Feng Wu back toward the campsite. "Then he has to come with us." Feng Wu gestured at Yu Minji. "He hasn't recovered from his old injuries, and thanks to Jun Linyuan, there's all this excessive fire energy in him. The two things will interact in a bad way in his body, and it can get a lot more complicated if I don't treat him properly now." Xian Yi wanted to turn her down, for he knew that Yu Minji was the ultimate reason for Jun Linyuan's rage. But Feng Sun didn't realize that. The goofball worshipped the ground his sister walked on, and he would do anything Feng Wu said without question. "Sure. No problem. Whatever you want, as long as you come back with me." Xian Yi's mouth fell open. Yu Minji was like a ticking time bomb that could set Boss Jun off at any moment. However, rubbing his chin, Xian Yi pondered for a moment. Maybe the guy's presence would force Boss Jun to face his true feelings. In the campsite. After the Crown Prince got back. Thump. There was a loud thump. He slammed his door shut with all his strength. The impact almost broke all the windows in the campsite. Many were still grilling meat in the open area in the center of the campsite, and everyone jumped at the sound. A hush fell over the crowd immediately as they exchanged frightened looks. That was so frightening. They thought they were going to have heart attacks. "I know what happened," Mu Yaoyao gloated. "Princess Mu, please tell us." Instantly, everyone gathered around Mu Yaoyao and begged for an explanation. Mu Yaoyao snorted. Isn't it obvious? That troublesome Feng Wu offended His Royal Highness again. What did Feng Wu do this time? His Royal Highness was so mad that he wanted to throttle Feng Wu. Qingqing and I saw it with our own eyes. Ask her if you don't believe me. Gong Sun Qing was much more reserved in nature, and she had been with her own team ever since they got back. She confirmed Mu Yaoyao's story with a nod. It's true. We saw it. Then. 8:30 The Crown Prince and his sarcasm. Wow! Everyone looked baffled. What did Feng Wu do? His Royal Highness was so mad. Did she offend His Royal Highness? She didn't. No one is allowed to defy His Royal Highness. Was that why His Royal Highness wanted to strangle Feng Wu? Is Feng Wu that flirty? She's just a pretty face with an empty head. I bet her biggest hope is to find a rich guy and be set for life. I'm telling you, Feng Wu must have forced herself upon His Royal Highness when they were alone, and I didn't know that Feng Wu had that side to her at all. The onlookers had made up a whole scenario in their heads from Mu Yaoyao and Gong Sun Qing's descriptions alone. Hence, when Feng Sun and the others got back, such rumors were all over the campsite. Feng Sun almost exploded. That's all bullshit. Little Feng Wu has never done such a thing. Boss Jun should do something about it. Xian Yi rubbed his nose. I'll go check up on him. The room was pitch dark when Xian Yi pushed the door open. Moonlight shone in through the door, casting a shadow on Jun Linyuan's face. Sitting against the wall with his head lowered, Jun Linyuan looked irascible but disappointed, reminding Xian Yi of a formidable beast languishing in a cage. He had never seen Jun Linyuan this way. Xian Yi sat down next to Jun Linyuan. Xian Yi realized that he could hear everything going on outside. That was to say, Boss Jun had heard all the groundless rumors they had made up about Feng Wu and him. He gave Boss Jun a strange look. Where there are people, there are rumors. Xian Yi started off his speech with those words. Jun Linyuan ignored him and was still lost in his thoughts. I saw little Feng Wu stumbling around on my way here. She was injured from narrowly escaping those Qilin beasts. She hasn't recovered yet, then this happened. She's limping. I feel quite sorry for her. Xian Yi mumbled to himself as he stole glances at Jun Linyuan. The Crown Prince was a smart guy, and Xian Yi knew that Jun Linyuan could take a hint. However, even the smartest guy had his blind spot. His boss Jun was a remarkable guy in every other subject, but when it came to relationships, he was hopeless. Jun Linyuan actually smirked. She's stumbling around? And she's still trying to run away with another man? Xian Yi's mouth fell open. Rubbing his nose, he tried to defend Feng Wu. It's like what Feng Sun said. Yu Minji won't leave little Feng Wu alone. Jun Linyuan snorted. He won't. I think she enjoyed it. Gosh. Just listen to that tone. And he still wouldn't admit that he was in love with little Feng Wu. Xian Yi had seen through His Royal Highness. However, he had to pretend he knew nothing, so that Jun Linyuan wouldn't be embarrassed. How tiring. Your Royal Highness did push Yu Minji into the magma. Jun Linyuan said in a contemptuous voice, I do what I want. Since when do I care how other people feel? 8:31 It's not like you, going to marry little Feng Wu. Yes, of course. Xian Yi nodded in a hurry. Of course your Royal Highness doesn't have to ask for anybody's permission, but, little Feng Wu was worried about Yu Minji after you pushed him in. Your Royal Highness, you're practically pushing Feng Wu into Yu Minji's arms. Staring at Xian Yi, Jun Linyuan said arrogantly, what's that supposed to mean? What? Why should I care what little Feng Wu thinks about Yu Minji? Xian Yi was speechless. Would your Royal Highness look like this, like you've lost your wits, if you really didn't care? You obviously care a lot. Do you think that I, the crown prince of the empire, would be distracted by a mere Feng Wu? Xian Yi shook his head repeatedly. No, of course not. I can kill that stupid girl whenever I want to. Xian Yi said, yes, of course. With a snort, Jun Linyuan raised his chin. So, what makes you think I give a damn if Feng Wu likes that Yuminji or not? No, of course you don't, like hell you don't. Xian Yi sighed inwardly. Right now, he knew perfectly well how Feng felt on a daily basis. The old man had to sound obedient while making sure that the crown prince didn't get embarrassed. That was such a tough job. But Xian Yi was quick-witted and he came up with an excuse right away. But Yu Minji has always considered you his arch-rival, do we really want him to show off in front of little Feng Wu? Xian Yi was so proud of his quick reaction. Jun Linyuan darted a glance at Xian Yi, pondered, then frowned. Xian Yi understood right away. Jun Linyuan was hesitating. He went on persuading him. The Yu family has established their own empire, which is located in the area where three kingdoms share a common border. It has precipitous terrain and is easy to defend, but hard to attack. Little Feng Wu has no cultivation skills, but she's an excellent doctor, an exceptional formation master, and a little genius. If she ends up marrying Yu Minji, she'll become a potential threat to our Junwu Empire. Xian Yi almost convinced himself with the story he made up. Suppressing the excitement in his voice, he went on. So, Your Royal Highness, for the long-term stability and prosperity of our empire, we mustn't allow Feng Wu to marry Yu Minji. Crossing his hands behind his back, Jun Linyuan raised his chin and darted a glance at Xian Yi. You think so, too? Yes, Your Royal Highness. Not only should we prevent Feng Wu from marrying Yu Minji, we should also stop them from becoming too close. She might leak confidential information to him unknowingly. Feng would praise Xian Yi for his acting if he were here. Jun Linyuan nodded and said in a solemn voice, You do have a point. Yes. Xian Yi nodded. Yu Minji is such a scheming guy and he's so good at currying favor girls. What if she falls in love with him? Jun Linyuan snorted. She's not blind. Xiao Wu glanced at Jun Linyuan. Of course Yu Minji is no match for Your Royal Highness, but not only is Yu Minji persistent, he's also promised Feng Wu a proper marriage. Your Royal Highness, it's not like you're ever going to marry little Feng Wu. Xian Yi stole a glance at Jun Linyuan as he spoke. Jun Linyuan looked embarrassed and he coughed into his fist. All girls expect to get married someday, said Xian Yi patiently, hoping that Boss Jun could read between the lines. However. 8:32 Take your clothes off. Jun Linyuan snorted. Marry her? Are you kidding me? Xian Yi's mouth fell open. Oh God, would His Royal Highness ever admit his true feelings? Sensing Xian Yi's silence, Jun Linyuan threw a dirty look at Xian Yi. Xian Yi was bewildered. What did he do now? Jun Linyuan frowned. Why did the guy stop? Go on talking about little Feng Wu. He was all ears. He didn't know what was wrong with him. He would prick up his ears whenever Feng Wu's name came up, and he was almost addicted to it. That wasn't right. What did you say about little Feng Wu? Jun Linyuan frowned. I didn't. Xian Yi was at a loss. However, he saw the light when he recognized the conflicted look on His Royal Highness's face. Little Feng Wu, well, Xian Yi heaved a sigh. Speak. Jun Linyuan glowered. Xian Yi didn't dare to keep the crown prince guessing for too long. He continued immediately. I saw the bruises on little Feng Wu's neck just then. They were all swollen and looked really painful. Those wounds were from none other than Jun Linyuan himself. The crown prince's face darkened, and he looked utterly embarrassed. Feng wasn't around, so Xian Yi had to play the old man's part. Boss June, little Feng Wu always puts the welfare of others before her own. Do you think she'll forget to treat her own wounds? And wasn't she suffering from excessive ice energy because of those two Qilin beasts? You were only able to remove half of it, and will have to do it again in 12 hours, right? Poor little Feng Wu. She probably has no idea what will happen if that excessive ice energy begins to spread throughout her body. By the way, Boss June, Feng Wu has excessive ice energy in her while Yu Minji has excessive fire energy. Do you think the two of them will? Thump. The closed door was kicked open and June Linyuan disappeared from sight. Like hell he didn't care. Xian Yi grinned. He did hope that Boss June would stop behaving like a willful child and tell Feng Wu his true feelings. Everything would be alright that way. At the same moment, Feng Sun was so concerned about his little sister that he gave her the best tent. Seeing the cuts on Feng Wu's face and the fact that she was busy treating Yu Minji's wounds, Feng Sun was displeased. He pulled Feng Wu over and sat her down. You have to get some rest. Can't you see your face? Feng Wu's face had been badly scratched by the Qilin beast before June Linyuan did his share. The fair skin on her neck was littered with purplish-blue marks, which looked quite frightening. Feng Wu said to Yu Minji, "Take off your clothes." She then turned to Feng Sun. "You, out." Feng Sun's eyes widened. No way. She was asking Yu Minji to take off his clothes and chasing Feng Sun out. What was this little Feng Wu up to? Feng Wu snapped, "I need to neutralize the toxin in his body. You're distracting me with all your talking. I'll keep silent." Feng Sun covered his mouth and pleaded with his eyes. "I don't trust you." Feng Wu then pushed Feng Sun out of the room. Seeing that Feng Sun wanted to raise his voice, Feng Wu said in a solemn voice, "Anything happens to him and we'll be in a lot of trouble. Do you want us to go to war with the Yu Empire?" Feng Sun was rendered speechless. What else could he say now? "I'm right outside. Give me a shout if you need anything." Feng Sun, the good brother, sat down outside with his legs crossed. 8:33 They redoing it. Feng Wu shook her head in resignation. When she turned back, Yu Minji had taken his top off. He was moving on to his trousers. "Stop!" Feng Wu cried out. "Didn't you tell me to take my clothes off? Just your top. Keep your pants on." Their conversation could be heard loud and clear outside. Because of June Linyuan, Feng Wu had become the center of attention. Of everyone, Mu Yaoyao and Gong Sun Qing were the most attentive observers. The fact that Feng Wu and Yu Minji stayed behind alone in the room was already enough to make their imaginations run wild. Now that they heard the conversation they exchanged looks in astonishment. Seriously? Was that what Feng Wu was truly like? She hooked up with Yu Minji as soon as His Royal Highness turned her down. Mu Yaoyao gritted her teeth in frustration. Yu Minji was a great candidate as a future husband, too. He used to be the sacred son of the Dark Court and was now the crown prince of the Yu Empire. Not only did His Majesty treat him nicely, the guy was also as famous as His Royal Highness. Can Feng Wu actually do that? Gong Sun Qing was equally amazed. Mu Yaoyao said, "Just look at that face of hers. You can flirt with whoever you want if you look like that." If June Linyuan was the #1 Prince Charming for all the girls in the empire, Yu Minji was ranked right behind him. Even young Lord Feng Sun wasn't his match. I can't believe it. How did Feng Wu do it? How did she switch from His Royal Highness to Yu Minji just like that? While Mu Yaoyao and Gong Sun Qing were grinding their teeth, overwhelmed with jealousy, footsteps came from behind them. Mu Yaoyao and Gong Sun Qing turned around to spot a familiar face. His Royal Highness? And behind His Royal Highness was young Lord Xian Yi. Mu Yaoyao's and Gong Sun Qing's eyes lit up. It was too late for them to hide, and they had to bow to the crown prince. With his sharp ears, of course June Linyuan had heard everything Mu Yaoyao and Gong Sun Qing said. His face darkened immediately. Xian Yi feared that His Royal Highness would once again be driven to extremes by his rage. After all, it had been proven that Jun Linyuan was a mostly level-headed and unperturbed guy, as long as Feng Wu wasn't involved. Otherwise, the guy's mood would switch from one extreme to the other like ice clashing with fire. Xian Yi said in a hurry, "Boss Jun, little Feng Wu isn't blind. She would never choose Yuminji over Jun Linyuan." That appeased Jun Linyuan a little, but he still quickened his footsteps. When they arrived at Feng Wu's tent, Jun Linyuan immediately spotted Feng Sun, who was sitting outside with his legs crossed. He then saw the silhouettes of the people inside on the wall of the tent. Feng Wu was moving closer to Yuminji, one hand on his shoulder and another reaching for his chest. Jun Linyuan's face turned livid. The look on his stunning face was terrifying. And he gave off an air that reminded one of a wild animal. "Boss Jun!" Thump! Feng Sun cried out as Jun Linyuan kicked the door open. More precisely, the crown prince didn't kick the door open, but kicked the entire tent into the air. Thump! All the lines that were keeping the tent in place were ripped out of the ground. Feng Wu and Yuminji stood there in astonishment as the tent around them disappeared. Ah! 834 His Royal Highness is jealous. Mu Yaoyao covered her face with both hands and cried out in an affected voice. Jun Linyuan showed up in front of Feng Wu like a god descending from above. He looked like an erupting volcano that was ready to burn everyone to ashes. The terrifying aura scared the wits out of everyone. Feng Wu looked up to see Jun Linyuan, who had malice written all over his face. His eyes were spitting fire. The look in his eyes was terrifying. Feng Wu released Yuminji involuntarily. Jun Linyuan stared at Feng Wu, as if he was going to tear her to pieces with his eyes. The temperature dropped so quickly that frost began to cover the ground. Jun Linyuan raised a hand. Feng Sun rushed over and grabbed Jun Linyuan's hand. "Boss Jun, if you have to hit someone, hit me, not my sister. She's as good as your half-sister." Fearing that Jun Linyuan would do something reckless, Xian Yi hurried over and held his other arm. "Boss Jun, calm down. Don't do something you'll regret later." Feng Sun stared at Feng Wu. "Don't just stand there, you silly girl. Apologize to Boss Jun." Feng Wu was completely at a loss. What did she do? Why should she apologize to Jun Linyuan? Why? Why should I do that? Feng Wu asked. Jun Linyuan's face grew even darker. A short distance away, the glacier began to crack. Feng Sun was equally exasperated. He had no idea what set Boss Jun off. He was as confused as Feng Wu. But one thing was for sure, Boss Jun was furious. Feng Sun did some thinking. Boss Jun couldn't be mad because Feng Wu was close to another guy. He didn't even like little Feng Wu. So, the only explanation was, "I told you not to treat Yuminji, you just wouldn't listen to me. Have you forgotten that he's not one of us?" Stone-faced, Feng Sun pulled Feng Wu over and smiled obsequiously at Jun Linyuan. "Boss Jun, little Feng Wu is a doctor and she's only doing it out of habit. She can't leave any patient untreated. That's why she's been looking after Yuminji. Boss Jun, I'm sure you won't mind that." Jun Linyuan cast a stern look at Feng Wu. It was malicious and seemed to leave a burning sensation on Feng Wu's skin. Feng Wu felt as if a large hand had gripped her heart and squeezed it. Even Feng Wu herself couldn't help but fidget, to say nothing of the others. Jun Linyuan stared at Feng Wu for a moment, threw a dirty look at Yuminji, then turned to leave. By now, a lot of people had gathered around them. Everybody loved good gossip, especially where Feng Wu and Jun Linyuan were concerned. Hence, everyone dropped what they were doing and gathered around in a hurry. Jun Linyuan turned around and scanned the crowd with a grim look in his eyes. Whoosh! The crowd moved at once, making a passageway wide enough for 4 people to walk shoulder to shoulder. The crown prince marched off, radiating a cold air as he walked. Everyone followed Jun Linyuan with their eyes, then turned to look at Feng Wu and the half-naked Yuminji, and the tent that had been kicked away. Mu Yaoyao had been jealous about Feng Wu's relationship with Yuminji. However, on second thought, she realized that she would have one less opponent if Feng Wu was with Yuminji. Given Feng Wu's good looks and her initiative in pursuing men, Mu Yaoyao had always considered Feng Wu a formidable love rival. 835 His Royal Highness is gone. Feng Wu's elimination would be great news to Mu Yaoyao. At that thought, Mu Yaoyao decided to twist the knife. She cried out with an affected air, "Oh God! Feng Wu, what are you doing? And why is the sacred sun half-naked? Don't you feel cold?" The crowd had been following the crown prince with their eyes, but upon hearing Mu Yaoyao's words whoosh instantly, almost all eyes were on Feng Wu and Yuminji. And all eyes widened in astonishment. They saw the tent that had been kicked away as well. All evidence pointed to one possibility. Feng Wu frowned. Of course Mu Yaoyao would make good use of this opportunity to defame Feng Wu. Oh my! Feng Wu! You and the sacred sun. People had been guessing before, but they only began to speak their minds after Mu Yaoyao's words. Mu Yaoyao wasn't the only one who thought that way. Feng Sun was no fool. He knew what Mu Yaoyao was getting at. He flared up right away and bellowed, "Mu Yaoyao! Stop trying to ruin my sister's reputation. Are you fucking blind? Yuminji still has needles in him. Xiao Wu is treating Yuminji. Stop making filthy suggestions. Boss Jun is mad because he doesn't want Xiao Wu to treat Yuminji. That's all. If what you're suggesting is true, you're saying that Boss Jun likes Feng Wu. You believe that?" As Jun Linyuan's childhood friend, Feng Sun had been unknowingly sabotaging the guy's missions since they were little. Jun Linyuan almost tripped when he heard Feng Sun's affirmative tone in the distance. Xianyi couldn't help but look over his shoulder at Feng Sun. He realized that he had to make his friend see the light soon before Boss Jun strangled that goofball. Back to Feng Wu. Feng Sun's resolute voice lingered in the air. Especially the last part. If what you're suggesting is true, you're saying that Boss Jun likes Feng Wu. You believe that? That successfully silenced everyone. That was so true. If Boss Jun was here to catch them in the act of adultery, that meant that he was in love with Feng Wu. But was he? Obviously not. Ergo, Boss Jun wasn't mad over the fact that there was something between Feng Wu and Yuminji. But that still doesn't prove that Feng Wu isn't romantically involved with Yuminji. Feng Sun roared, "Are you blind? Yuminji has needles all over his face." Someone said quietly in the crowd, "I heard from somewhere that stimulating certain acupoints will heat things up when you're doing it." Feng Sun. What was that? Step out and I'll beat some sense into your head. Young Lord Feng could be pretty scary when he was infuriated. The crowd began to scatter. However, Feng Sun could chase them off, but not the idea in their heads. "I think something must be going on between Feng Wu and Yuminji." Mu Yaoyao clenched her fists. Mu Yaoyao believed that with the beautiful Feng Wu out of the picture, she would achieve her goal with much less difficulty. So, she had to make sure that the gossip of Feng Wu and Yuminji became real. You know what? I've heard that Feng Wu has a habit of 836 The Jealous Crown Prince. Really? I didn't know she's that kind of person. You don't say. She's been following His Royal Highness around since Northern Border City and simply wouldn't leave him alone. So, now that His Royal Highness is no longer an option, she's moved on to Yuminji. Instead of going back to his tent, Jun Linyuan walked away from the campsite. Fearing that the crown prince would destroy the entire proud snowfield in his current state, Xianyi forced himself to follow him, for the sake of all the candidates and the snowfield. Jun Linyuan stopped in front of a glacier and crossed his hands behind his back. Xian Yi stood next to him. Even from here, Xian Yi could hear the voices of those women in the campsite. Have you heard? Feng Wu and Yu Minji. Really? Yes. That Feng Wu. The voices kept coming. Xian Yi looked up at his friend. Jun Linyuan had much sharper ears and would only hear more than Xian Yi did. Xian Yi noticed Jun Linyuan's face getting darker. The guy could lose his temper at any moment. He said in a hurry, "Actually, I saw what happened just then. Little Feng Wu was treating Yu Minji with acupuncture therapy." Jun Linyuan didn't even blink. Little Feng Wu should take care of herself first. She still hasn't treated her own wounds. Xian Yi stole another glance at Jun Linyuan and saw that the latter's face was still livid. He added, "She's a great doctor with a big heart." What a kind girl. Jun Linyuan snorted. What kind of therapy needs her patients to strip first? Xian Yi rubbed his nose. Well, it's easier to see the acupoints without clothes. Your Royal Highness, everyone has to take off their clothes for acupuncture therapy. Jun Linyuan smirked. Didn't you call her a great doctor? Xian Yi's mouth fell open. The more Jun Linyuan thought about it, the angrier he became. Xian Yi watched in astonishment as the glacier began to crack. Xian Yi really wanted to ask his boss Jun, exactly what was he angry about. However, he didn't have a death wish, and could only draw his neck back without saying another word. Jun Linyuan snorted. A man and a woman behind a closed door all by themselves. Do I need to say more? Xian Yi rubbed his head. He realized that it had been a bad idea to lead Boss Jun to little Feng Wu just then. He didn't know what to say now. While he kept his silence and his eyes darted around, he saw that the water level of the river had started to rise. That was strange. Did the river have tides here? Boss Jun. Just then, Feng Sun ran toward them. Get him out of my sight. Jun Linyuan said with a grim face. Recalling what Feng Sun had said, Xian Yi knew that it was time for him to lecture his friend. Hence, he nodded and ran toward Feng Sun. Come with me. Xian Yi stopped Feng Sun. Feng Sun was displeased. Why? I'm here to speak to Boss Jun. If I let you do that, you'll end up enraging Boss Jun and getting yourself killed, Xian Yi thought to himself. There was no time to waste. Xian Yi dragged Feng Sun in the other direction. Feng Sun actually wasn't Xian Yi's match and had to follow the ladder. What? Feng Sun threw Xian Yi's hand off when they were on top of another glacier. I need to speak to Boss Jun. 837 The Crown Prince won. Xian Yi's face darkened. What do you want to say to Boss Jun? Isn't Boss Jun mad about little Feng Wu hanging out with Yu Minji all the time? Feng Sun stared at him. You know that? Feng Sun said proudly, of course I know that. Boss Jun doesn't like little Feng Wu, but he still doesn't want her to be too close to Yu Minji. It's like making friends with our enemy. Xian Yi tried to lead him in the right direction. Don't you think that? Boss Jun might actually like little Feng Wu a lot. Ha 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 ha, ha 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 ha. Feng Sun laughed until he was in tears. Xian Yi, have you lost your mind? Boss Jun will never think of my sister that way. I think my sister is the best girl on earth, but Boss Jun isn't me. He doesn't like Xiao Wu at all. Are you sure? I can bet my own head on it. Feng Sun said in an affirmative voice as he patted his own head. Xian Yi's mouth fell open. Back at the campsite, many had already gone to bed. All nature was silent when wait, what was that noise? Mu Yao Yao was only half awake when she felt the cold. It was as if she was submerged in freezing cold water. She opened her eyes. She was scared out of her wits by what she saw. Where had all this water come from? Her tent was flooded and the cold water was already up to her calves. Ah! Mu Yao Yao was the first to scream. Where did all this water come from? What's happening? Her shriek ripped through the silence of the night, waking everyone up at once. The makeshift beds were all made from dry twigs. At the sound, everyone bolted upright. What was going on? They looked down and saw the water. Isn't the campsite on a high slope? How did the water get here? I thought the river is dozens of meters below us. Why is all this water here? The river can't flow backward, can it? No. Gong Sun Qing said calmly, the river isn't flowing backward, but the ice layer under our feet is melting. But I thought we chose a spot without magma when we made camp. Why is the ice melting now? No one had a clue. This was beyond their imagination. Plus, is it me or is the water really, really cold? Like, freezing cold? It's colder than that. Even my heart is shuddering. Just as they ran out of the campsite and climbed to higher ground. Rumble. There was a loud noise. Everyone turned in that direction involuntarily. There. An entire glacier, which stretched on for miles, was collapsing as they watched. It was as if doomsday had arrived. Oh God! Mu Yao Yao cried out. Everyone else was equally dazed by what was happening. They all prided themselves on being experienced teenagers, but none of them had seen something as awe-inspiring as this before. To say that they were shaken to the core would be an understatement. Oh God! Shit! The glacier has collapsed. We're witnessing a glacier falling apart. Quit yelling already. It's coming our way. Run, or we'll all die here. Where's His Royal Highness? Where is he? Won't he lead us out of here? 838 The Crown Prince 2. I don't know. I haven't seen His Royal Highness since last night. What about young Lord Feng? And young Lord Xianyi? They can help us if His Royal Highness isn't here. No, neither of them is around. Oh God, stop packing and leave everything behind. Money is of no use to dead people. Just run. Everyone was running as fast as they could. They rushed toward the highest mountain peak nearby. Feng Wu's eyes widened. This had to be the worst day of her life. She hadn't been able to find any peace since the physical tryouts started. Now that things had finally settled down a bit, she wanted to use this time to work on her cultivation. She had been ready to make a breakthrough to level 6 when the glacier collapsed. With everyone gone, the campsite was exceptionally quiet. Feng Wu was much more observant than the others. She frowned, after confirming that the water didn't come from a rising river. Yu Minji was cultivating on a stone nearby. His recovery process would be affected if he was disturbed at that moment. Feng Wu estimated the time until the glacier fell upon them. She still had 1 minute. And she could do a lot of things in that time. Scooping up some water, Feng Wu studied it carefully. Wait. Feng Wu looked surprised. The water indeed came from the melted ice under her feet, and it was true that it was due to the fire energy, but why did she detect the familiar energy of an abnormal flame in it? Feng Wu frowned. Abnormal flame? She released Little Phoenix from her ring. Little Phoenix's eyes lit up as soon as it sensed that energy. You recognize it? Feng Wu asked. Little Phoenix rolled its eyes at Feng Wu. Can't you tell? It's the abnormal flame of your dear Crown Prince. Feng Wu frowned. It's familiar, but I'm not so sure. Little Phoenix didn't want to tell her who the energy belonged to, for it didn't want Feng Wu to hang out with that rogue. At that thought, Little Phoenix raised its head and crossed its wings. Humph. Don't ask me. Feng Wu was speechless. It was so obvious that the bird knew the answer, but it just wouldn't tell her. What was the bird getting at? There were only 20 seconds left, and Feng Wu had to leave now. Yu Minji. Yu Minji. No matter how reluctant Feng Wu was, she had to wake him up. The entire campsite would be wiped out if there was a landslide. When that happened, she and Yuminji would have no chance of getting out. But Fengwu shouted and shouted, but Yuminji just wouldn't wake up. Fengwu felt his forehead. Shit, he has a fever. Fengwu was surprised. Yuminji was supposed to be very strong. How could he fall ill? However, the guy had been wounded before falling into the magma. And during the acupuncture therapy, which was when he was at his weakest, the tent had been kicked away, causing him to catch a cold. It was only normal that he would have a fever now. Recalling what happened, Fengwu cursed Jun Linyuan under her breath. There was no time to waste. She took out a belt to tie Yuminji on her back, then folded the tent and threw it on Little Phoenix's back. Little Phoenix was a palm-sized bird, and the tent looked humongous next to it. 839 The Crown Prince 3. Little Phoenix wanted to say something sarcastic, but seeing how concerned Fengwu was over Yuminji, it kept its silence. This Yuminji was at least better than Jun Linyuan. The guy had given Little Phoenix sweets twice. Just then up on the mountain peak. Both Feng Sun and Xian Yi looked in Jun Linyuan's direction. That giant glacier was the one Jun Linyuan was standing on. Boss Jun, you. Xian Yi realized what was happening right away. Of Jun Linyuan, the glacier, and the campsite, Jun Linyuan was on the highest ground, while the campsite was on the lowest. From where Jun Linyuan was, he had cracked the glacier with a push, and ice rained down on the campsite. However, the guy had to be unbelievably capable to break a mountain with one hand. Not to mention that the glacier melted before it hit the ground. Xian Yi stared at Jun Linyuan in disbelief. Had the Crown Prince just melted an entire glacier with his rage? How furious was he? And how formidable his power was. It was unfathomable. Xian Yi said a silent prayer for Fengwu. The girl had offended His Royal Highness that much without knowing it. Just then, wait a minute. Feng Sun cried out and pointed at the snowfield down below. What's Yuminji's problem? Can't he run himself? Why is my sister carrying him? She's never carried me on her back. This is unbelievable. Xian Yi's heart sank. His worst fear had just come true. Looking down, he saw that Fengwu was indeed running across the snowfield with Yuminji on her back. Next to her was a flying tent that had been packed up. Xian Yi's mouth fell open. He threw a dirty look at Feng Sun. The guy just wouldn't keep his mouth shut. No, I have to get down there. Who the hell does Yuminji think he is? When will he leave my sister alone? Feng Sun dashed off. Xian Yi couldn't bring himself to look at Boss Jun's face. The guy melted a glacier because Fengwu gave Yuminji acupuncture therapy. Now that Fengwu was running around with Yuminji on her back. Xian Yi forced himself to look at Jun Linyuan. He stumbled back at what he saw. Jun Linyuan looked as if he was wearing an ice mask. His gaze was as sharp as a blade and he was biting hard on his lower lip. He looked so terrifying. Xian Yi had no doubt that Boss Jun would kill Yuminji the next moment. Luckily, Feng Sun got there in time. He dragged Yuminji off Fengwu's back right away. Fengwu snapped, "What the hell?" Feng Sun flicked Fengwu in the forehead and yelled at her, "Exactly how silly can you be? He's a guy and you're a girl. You should keep your distance." After that, Feng Sun threw Yuminji over his shoulder and marched off. Whoosh! Xian Yi let out a breath of relief, then stole a glance at Jun Linyuan. He tried to cover for Fengwu. Why, Yuminji looked so limp and he didn't even resist. Is he sick or something? Xian Yi smacked his thigh. Yes. That's it. He's too sick to walk. That's why little Fengwu was carrying him. Sigh, she's such a kind person. Still biting his lip, the Crown Prince stared at the three people down below, and suddenly clenched his fists. Boom. 840 The Crown Prince 4. Jun Linyuan smashed the glacier under him. There was a blast. Crack. The impact created another giant pit in the glacier, and ice rolled down in great chunks. Xian Yi's mouth fell open. If he still had some doubts over the cause of that falling glacier, he had just been fully convinced. Boss Jun was unbelievable. Below on the snowfield. Thump. 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 Large chunks of ice showered down like meteorites. Quickly. With Yu Minji on his back, Feng Sun took Feng Wu's hand and ran as fast as he could. He mumbled as he ran, "Little Feng Wu, saving Yu Minji was your worst decision today. See? You've enraged someone up there and you're being punished." Feng Wu retorted, "No, I didn't." "Yes, you so did." Feng Sun rolled his eyes. "Everything was fine in the campsite before you brought Yu Minji back. But now, everything has been ruined. Look, we have to carry him around while running for our lives. We could get our heads cracked open by chunks of ice at any moment." Feng Sun had no idea that he had actually pointed out the truth. When they were finally out of the campsite, they ran for another 100 miles or so until they reached the next valley. Whoosh! All the candidates were sitting, dazed, in the cold wind. They had been so flustered when they fled the campsite that they hadn't brought anything with them. Now that they were safe again, they began to shiver in the heavy snow. Seeing Feng Wu arrive, Mu Yao Yao was disappointed. For a moment there, she had hoped that Feng Wu would die in the disaster. Looking around at the candidates, Feng Sun asked Xianyuan Yi, "Is everyone here?" Xianyuan Yi was considered the future of the Xianyuan family, which was one of the 9 major clans. The candidates had reached a tacit agreement that Xianyuan Yi was their leader. However, the teenager considered Feng Sun his superior. What was more, Xianyuan Yi was trying his best to squeeze into the crown prince's circle. It was just that Feng Sun didn't seem to like him all that much. "Brother Feng, we have 63 candidates in total, and everyone is accounted for. We're only missing His Royal Highness and Brother Xian." Xianyuan Yi couldn't be any more polite with Feng Sun. He then turned to look at Feng Wu. By then, Feng Wu had removed the tent from Little Phoenix and was ready to set up camp in a spot she had chosen. Xianyuan Yi stared at Feng Wu. Mu Yao Yao had been poisoning his ears with rumors about Feng Wu, and as a result, he already had a poor impression of Feng Wu before they even met. Seeing that Feng Wu had taken the best spot under a leeward slope, he frowned. "Excuse me, what are you doing?" Feng Wu didn't remember Xianyuan Yi much from her childhood, and he was practically a stranger to her now. Since the guy was stopping her from setting up camp, Feng Wu rose to her feet and stared at him. Xianyuan Yi stared back. "Excuse me, this is the best spot in the area that's away from the wind and the rain. How can you take it for granted that it's yours?" Feng Wu didn't mind where she slept for the night, but Yu Minji needed a quiet and warm place to recover. She had checked the area. This was the only ideal spot. 841 The Crown Prince 5. Mu Yao Yao snorted. "Feng Wu, you arrived last. You don't get to nab the good spot first." Gong Sun Qing chimed in, "You're the only one with a tent here. Give it up already." Feng Wu smiled a little. These people just took it for granted that she would let them push her around. Xianyuan Yi stared at Feng Wu. He had his eye on Feng Wu's tent, but had scruples because of Yu Minji's status. Xianyuan Yi still hadn't decided whether to take the tent or not. Feng Sun was baffled by what was happening. Exactly how stupid were these people? Picking on his sister, really? "Hey, what's this? What are you doing to my sister?" Throwing an arm over Xianyuan Yi's shoulder, Feng Sun scanned the crowd with a smile. "Interesting. Very interesting. Sister." Everyone looked at Feng Sun in bewilderment. Since when was Feng Wu his sister? Xianyuan Yi broke into a cold sweat. Seriously? Was Feng Sun backing Feng Wu up now? Wasn't Feng Sun with His Royal Highness, and didn't His Royal Highness find Feng Wu repulsive? How? Brother Feng, why is Feng Wu your sister all of a sudden? Xian Yuan smiled wryly. Why can't she be my sister? She's my sister because I say so. Feng Sun smirked. My sister is taking this spot. Are you going to tell her otherwise now? The others all looked baffled. Exactly what was the relationship between Feng Wu and Feng Sun? Why was young Lord Feng taking Feng Wu's side? Mu Yaoyao gritted her teeth in frustration. She didn't understand it. What did these guys see in Feng Wu? That girl could hang out with Yu Minji, and now, young Lord Feng was backing her up. She was just a good-for-nothing. Why? Jealousy gnawed at Mu Yaoyao's heart. Xian Yuan cringed at Feng Sun's stare and backed off. Just then, Gong Sun Qing cried out, Your Royal Highness. The others turned around to see the tall, handsome crown prince. The teenager walked toward them through the wind and snow, his fur cape giving him a regal, majestic look. Seeing Jun Linyuan, the candidates forgot about the cold immediately and all rose to their feet in excitement. Although the crown prince had joined them earlier, they hadn't had many chances to meet him so far. Your Royal Highness, Mu Yaoyao rushed over to him and said loudly in an aggrieved voice, Feng Wu was going to take the nicest spot. But we've saved it for you. What should we do? Mu Yaoyao used the most delicate and touching voice she could manage, and she batted her eyelashes repeatedly in a flirtatious way. Really? Mu Yaoyao didn't expect to get an answer, but Jun Linyuan actually replied with a question. That surprised everyone. Mu Yaoyao was overwhelmed by the unexpected attention. Yes. Yes, of course. Everyone here saw it. Your Royal Highness, please do something. Mu Yaoyao moved closer as she spoke in a cloying voice. Jun Linyuan frowned and the look in his eyes was devoid of warmth. He gave the order without looking at Feng Wu, banish her. Banish her? What was that supposed to mean? Everyone was still bewildered, when Feng Sun gave Mu Yaoyao a push. That's you, you gossip monger. Go away. You, Mu Yaoyao stumbled and was furious. Jun Linyuan smiled wickedly as he shifted his gaze to Feng Sun. He then pointed at Feng Wu. I meant her. (842) Romantic. Maybe one. Jun Linyuan pointed a finger at Feng Wu. That immediately silenced everyone. All eyes were on Feng Wu, and Feng Wu was equally baffled herself. Gong Sun Qing was the first one to laugh out loud. She glanced at Feng Wu and said in a taunting voice, Did you hear that? His Royal Highness told you to get lost. Mu Yaoyao chimed in and scoffed at Feng Wu. Go away now. Are you going to defy His Royal Highness? Many others joined in and sneered at Feng Wu. Taking a deep breath, Feng Wu turned to Jun Linyuan. She tried to reason with the guy. Yu Minji has a high fever and he's very weak. He needs that place to rest. Jun Linyuan, you know perfectly well why he's this sick. Jun Linyuan stared at Feng Wu in an intimidating manner. Therefore, please let me have this spot. Gritting her teeth, Feng Wu spoke in a solemn tone. Jun Linyuan only snorted. Seeing that the guy wouldn't give in, Feng Wu stressed, he can die. I'm not joking. Jun Linyuan said coldly, all the better. Feng Wu was speechless. She didn't want to say another word to Jun Linyuan. Snatching Yu Minji off Feng Sun's back, Feng Wu turned to leave. Leave this place and I'll kill him. Jun Linyuan spoke in an intimidating voice. Feng Wu. Fighting back her rage with all her might, Feng Wu trembled from head to toe. Turning around, she met Jun Linyuan's gaze and glared at the guy. Jun Linyuan. You've crossed the line. She couldn't keep the spot and she wasn't allowed to leave. Pleading wasn't an option, neither was fighting. Jun Linyuan didn't like her. That was that. However, Feng Wu had to admit that Jun Linyuan was capable of killing Yu Minji if he was really pissed. She couldn't risk Yu Minji's life. At that thought, Feng Wu took a deep breath and forced herself to calm down. She found another spot that was shielded from the wind. Feng Sun quickly set up the tent without her having to say anything. Feng Wu then gave Feng Sun instructions right away. I need firewood, hot water, ice. After listing everything she wanted, she went into the tent. She was alone with that guy again. Jun Linyuan was so angry that he wanted to kick that tent away again. Xian Yi stopped him in time. He could tell that Feng Wu was on the verge of losing her temper. The girl would explode if the crown prince pissed her off again. When that happened, Boss Jun's feelings would be hurt even more. Let me go have a look. Maybe I can help them. Xian Yi then turned to leave. Seeing that the crown prince didn't stop him, Xian Yi let out a sigh of relief. The guy had given his tacit permission. Mu Yaoyao saw Jun Linyuan standing there all by himself and thought that it was a perfect opportunity for her. She inched toward the crown prince, but before she could say anything, Jun Linyuan spun around and left. He left so fast that a chilly wind swept across the area. Instantly, Mu Yaoyao felt frozen to the bone. In the tent, Xian Yi watched as Feng Wu busied herself with treating Yu Minji. He wanted to say something, but hesitated. He had never been a talkative guy, nor was he in the habit of nosing around, but he just couldn't bring himself to see Feng Wu and Jun Linyuan fall out. Actually, Boss Jun. 843 Romantic. Maybe two. Xian Yi had barely started before Feng Wu cast a stern look at him. Her tone was emotionless. Mention him again and you're out of here. Xian Yi's mouth fell open. He had to change the subject to Yu Minji. How's he doing? By that, he meant, when can you leave this tent? A certain guy would never lighten up if she stayed here in the tent. Feng Wu frowned and shook her head. His temperature won't go down and he's in critical condition. I have to stay here tonight to look after him. Tonight? As in, a whole night. Xian Yi's face darkened. Problem? Feng Wu frowned. How about I stay here tonight? Do you know how to treat him? No. Then what good can you do? Xian Yi's mouth fell open. The girl was so relentless. Seeing that Feng Wu was almost done with treating Yu Minji, Xian Yi couldn't help but remind her again. Little Feng Wu, if you think about it, you'll realize that Boss Jun has been very kind to you. If only. Feng Wu sneered at Xian Yi before Xian Yi could finish his sentence. So, he was doing me a favor when he told me to get lost? What will he do when he's not kind? Kill me? I didn't mean that. Xian Yi, I didn't know you were this talkative and meddlesome. I just don't want you two to misunderstand each other. With the two of them falling out, the mood of the entire campsite was affected. Everyone was on edge. There's no misunderstanding between me and him. Feng Wu stared at Xian Yi with bright eyes devoid of warmth as she said, I'll only repeat myself once, there's no misunderstanding about what happened between me and him. Xian Yi finally saw how difficult Feng's job was. Fine, fine. Go figure it out yourselves. I've had enough. Both of them were more stubborn than a bull, and Xian Yi was at the end of his rope. He raised the curtain to find Feng Sun outside. Xian Yi patted Feng Sun on the shoulder. Stay in this tent today. Got it? No, I won't. It's an order from Boss Jun. Really? That's what Boss Jun said. Are you going to defy him? Feng Sun rubbed his chin. Well, if Boss Jun wants me to stay here. Fine, I'll keep an eye on that Yu Minji. Jun Linyuan wasn't in the campsite, but had climbed a mountain peak. The lower hem of his robe flapped in the cold wind. Xian Yi went up to him and said indifferently, that guy's pretty sick. His fever won't go down. Jun Linyuan replied with a snort. Little Feng Wu is going to stay in the tent and look after that guy tonight. Jun Linyuan's face turned livid at those words. But Feng Sun has offered to stay with her tonight as well, just in case his sister needs a hand. Xian Yi saw Boss Jun's face lighten up a little right away. The guy was still trying to hide his feelings even now. What was wrong with telling her how he really felt? All of a sudden. Rumble. There was a loud noise. What was that? Xian Yi looked into the distance and saw smoke rising from the snowfield down below. Look! Xian Yi pointed at the smoke and looked baffled. Even Jun Linyuan was alarmed. Before long, a magical beast resembling a white dragon ran out of the smoke and charged in their direction. "844 Romantic. Maybe 3. The beast had the head of a dragon and the body of a lion, and a pair of wings stuck out from its back. It was covered in white fur which was so translucent that it reminded one of ice and snow. When it rolled around in the snow, it blended into the background and almost became invisible. That's a powerful beast. Xian Yi stumbled back when the beast's formidable aura reached them like a blast of wind. It's that frosty night beast. Jun Linyuan's eyes glittered. The beast landed from above and roared in the direction of the campsite. The sound wave hit the campsite like a tidal wave. Boom! A gust of wind swept across the campsite. All hell broke loose. What's going on? What was that? That sound was so frightening. Everyone looked up at the sky. That strange snowy white beast was circling over their heads. A frosty night beast. Oh God! That's a frosty night beast. Some of the candidates were more experienced than the others, such as Xianyuan Yi. He recognized at once that this was the formidable beast which resided in the center of Proud Snowfield. The beast then flapped its wings. Whoosh! The candidates, who had gathered together, were swept away in all directions and scattered all over the ground. Everyone moaned in pain. The frosty night beast was as formidable as it was said to be. With one dive, it broke their ranks. It plunged down again and snatched someone off the ground. Ah! Gong Sun Qing. Shit! It got Gong Sun Qing. Everyone was astonished. What a beast! It had taken Gong Sun Qing before they could even blink. Gong Sun Qing finally realized what had happened and shrieked. Ah! Help! Help me! Feng Wu had just finished treating Yuminji, and she walked out of the tent at the noise. The first thing she saw was the frosty night beast taking away Gong Sun Qing. It reminded her of Jun Linyuan. Back in northern border city, Feng Wu had been snatched by an eagle. Jun Linyuan was so merciless at that time. Instead of trying to save her, he almost killed her. However, the guy was no better now. He was as unrelenting and cold-hearted as ever. Only a couple of months had passed since then, but Feng Wu felt like it was a lifetime away. Right at that moment, a figure leapt up with a sword in his hand. His Royal Highness. It's His Royal Highness. He's saving Gong Sun Qing. The next moment, Jun Linyuan struck at the frosty night beast's paw. The frosty night beast tossed Gong Sun Qing into its mouth. Jun Linyuan then struck the beast's mouth. Feng Wu saw everything. Because of that, she narrowed her eyes. She couldn't help but recall how merciless Jun Linyuan had been when she was snatched. He had never thought about rescuing her. He even tried to kill her. But now, that same person had struck out twice to save Gong Sun Qing. For some unknown reason, Feng Wu felt a lump in her throat. She wanted to cry. In front of the screen. Imperial College. An emergency meeting was being held because of the awakened frosty night beast. 845 Romantic. Maybe 4. Of all the 7 members of the education board, 3 had gone into seclusion. The other 4 members were all here in the room. They were Grand Secretary Fang, Priest Wu, Xianyuan Kun, and Gongsun Lan. Gongsun Lan was an unmarried female elder of the Gongsun clan, and none other than Gongsun Qing's paternal grandaunt. Gongsun Qing had been brought up by this grandaunt. The physical tryout is too dangerous now. At this point, it's way beyond what the candidates can handle. We have to get them out of there now. Elder Xianyuan was very adamant. But Grand Secretary Fang shook his head. Feng Wu needed that frosty night beast, and Grand Secretary Fang had communicated with her already. She didn't want to give up. Hence, Grand Secretary Fang insisted, His Royal Highness has led a team into the snowfield, they'll handle that frosty night beast. If the beast is what concerns you, there's really no need. Elder Xianyuan wanted to object, but Grand Secretary Fang only smiled at him. Do you have doubts about His Royal Highness? Of course not. His Royal Highness is such a powerful cultivator. You have questions about His Royal Highness's capability, then? I'm sure nothing can defeat His Royal Highness. Then what's bothering you? Things turned south in the snowfield while they were still discussing the matter in front of the screen. Gongsun Qing was snatched. Gongsun Lan's stomach lurched. No. But just as she was about to rise to her feet, she saw the Crown Prince strike out. Elder Xianyuan insisted, it's too dangerous out there. Grand Secretary Fang, are you going to do nothing? Who's going to take responsibility if things go wrong? Gongsun Lan stared at Elder Xianyuan. They went in there with the knowledge that it was going to be dangerous. How are they supposed to defend their empire if they panic as soon as something comes up? What other achievements can we expect from them then? Elder Xianyuan was baffled. What the heck? Wasn't this old hag supposed to be on his side? Didn't she insist earlier that they should get everyone out of there? Why did she change her mind? When Elder Xianyuan glanced at the screen, he saw the Crown Prince fighting that frosty night beast. Elder Xianyuan smirked. I see. Gongsun Lan, that's your plan, isn't it? What plan? Look, His Royal Highness is saving a damsel in distress. The next thing we know, the damsel is going to throw herself into her savior's arms. Elder Xianyuan snorted. What damsel? What savior? You old fool, and your head filled with filthy ideas. Although, Gongsun Lan smiled a little. Elder Xianyuan turned to Grand Secretary Fang with a smile. If I remember correctly, your granddaughter has a crush on His Royal Highness as well. So, Elder Xianyuan was trying to cast a bone between Gongsun Lan and Grand Secretary Fang. Gongsun Lan smiled. Let the youngsters decide for themselves. Plus, didn't His Royal Highness annul his marriage contract before? His former fiancée was that little Feng Wu, wasn't it? Gongsun Lan didn't pay much attention to Mu Yaoyao. She was experienced enough to tell right away that Mu Yaoyao stood no chance in this competition. As for little Feng Wu, she was such a beautiful girl. Back in the snowfield. After another strike from Jun Linyuan, Gongsun Qing fell through the air. She had just let out a shriek, when Jun Linyuan lent her a hand. 846 Romantic. Maybe 5. Then, Jun Linyuan tossed her in Xian Yi's direction. Xian Yi leapt up, caught Gongsun Qing, and helped her to land steadily on her feet. Gongsun Qing was over the moon. With her left hand, she kept stroking her right arm where His Royal Highness had held her. His Royal Highness had touched her arm. Gongsun Qing stood there in a daze and couldn't stop smiling. Thump. 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 Jun Linyuan and the frosty night beast fought fiercely in the air and were soon out of sight. A hush fell over the crowd. Everyone shuddered when a gust of wind swept across the campsite. Having lost their tents and food, and coupled with the fact that they hadn't slept much last night, they were now stuck between hunger and cold. To make it worse, they had been attacked by that frosty night beast. They were miserable. Feng Wu was the only one with a tent, and many eyed her with jealousy. But because of what Feng Sun had said, no one dared to mess with Feng Wu anymore. Although Feng Sun and Xian Yi had gone off after that frosty night beast, the others still didn't dare touch Feng Wu's belongings. As the head of the team, Xian Yuan did what a leader should do in a time like this. After Jun Linyuan went off, he stepped up as commander. The candidates here consisted of 3 teams, and everyone was given tasks. Some went to find firewood, some went hunting or fishing, and some worked as support. Everything was in order. Feng Wu wasn't part of that system, for her top priority now was to cure Yuminji. And to treat her own wounds. The campsite was soon back to its boisterous state. "Princess, look. That Gongsun Qing is still in a trance," said Yao Ying, half of whose face was covered with bandages. She now despised all pretty girls and secretly wished to destroy all their faces. Mu Yao Yao couldn't help but look at Gongsun Qing. Gongsun Qing remained where she was and kept touching her right arm with her left hand. Her expression changed constantly, as she smiled one moment and was sad the next. She then bit her lip, smiling shyly. Mu Yao Yao recognized that look right away. So, Gongsun Qing was in love with His Royal Highness. Mu Yao Yao flared up. Gongsun Qing wasn't by herself. Shi Xian, her friend, was next to her. Shi Xian chuckled. "Sister Qing, it's so chilly here at the valley entrance. Let's find a warmer spot inside." Gongsun Qing shook her head and kept looking into the distance. Shi Xian grinned. "Sister Qing, His Royal Highness isn't coming back anytime soon. Standing here won't change anything." With her secret laid bare, Gongsun Qing was a little exasperated. She cast a stern look at Shi Xian. "How does His Royal Highness have anything to do with this? I'm not standing here because of him." Shi Xian said, "Yes, of course. You're not standing here for anything. So, can we please go back inside? His Royal Highness will be distraught if you catch a cold." Gongsun Qing said, "Do you think he really will?" "Of course. Why not?" Shi Xian grinned. "We all know how nonchalant and aloof His Royal Highness is. He never talks to anyone unless it's necessary or helps anyone out. But he just saved you." "Really?" Gongsun Qing lowered her head, playing with a lock of her hair. "Yes," Shi Xian said affirmatively. "Can you remember His Royal Highness rescuing any other girl?" "I don't think so." "That's right. I heard that there was this girl who got snatched by an eagle in northern border city once." Shi Xian was clearly very well informed. "Do you know what happened next?" 847 Romantic. Maybe 6. What happened? His Royal Highness struck out with his blade without hesitation. He wanted to kill that girl to save himself the trouble. Feng Wu's tent was close by and she was cultivating as she kept an eye on Yuminji. However, it was so noisy outside that she kept picking up bits of conversation. None of it would have bothered Feng Wu on a normal day, for she had always been able to enter the state of meditation. But now, she realized that she was unable to do so. What was more, she felt agitated. She kept going back to the moment when Jun Linyuan saved Gongsun Qing. Thump. Feng Wu smacked herself on the head. Focus. When her mind finally settled and she was able to work on her cultivation, she heard the conversation between Gongsun Qing and Shi Xian. "How frustrating." Gongsun Qing asked, "What? Really?" "Yes." Shi Xian patted her chest, looking frightened. "I was told that His Royal Highness was relentless. He didn't even blink before he struck out. But he just saved you." Gongsun Qing smiled shyly. Shi Xian went on. "So, His Royal Highness must like you a lot. Wow, you're going to marry him." Gongsun Qing nudged her gently. Stop it. Why, somebody's shy. Hey, don't you run away. Your Royal Highness, I'm so scared. Sure Xian. Those words unsettled Feng Wu and she felt so agitated. Just then the door to the tent opened and a tall figure entered. Before she could say anything, the person said in a commanding voice, "Open your mouth." Jun Linyuan. Why was he back? Why? I'm not opening my mouth just because you tell me to. Who do you think you are? Feng Wu glared at Jun Linyuan, reminding him of a little tiger. Jun Linyuan snorted. Are you going to open your mouth or not? No. Resting her hands on her waist, Feng Wu raised her chin proudly. However, the next second, pinching her chin between his fingers, Jun Linyuan stuffed something into her mouth with the other hand. Wretch! Something cold and slimy slid down her throat before she could react. Feng Wu wanted to spit it out, but Jun Linyuan had put his hand on her throat. His palm radiated spiritual essence and warmed up that thing. The thing melted almost immediately and reached Feng Wu's dantian within minutes, where it entered her bloodstream and she could no longer spit it out. Feng Wu looked shocked. She stared at Jun Linyuan. What on earth did you put into my mouth? What do you think? It was wet and slimy, like an internal elixir. Yup. Jun Linyuan looked pleased. Xian Yi was right, girls were petty creatures, Jun Linyuan thought. He had just done a magnanimous thing. This way, she would be pleased, wouldn't she? This was the first time that the crown prince had ever tried to please a girl. You fed the internal elixir of a magical beast to me? Feng Wu's heart raced. Don't tell me it belonged to that frosty night beast. It did. Jun Linyuan nodded. Feng Wu. She was furious. You fed its internal elixir to me? I had other plans for that internal elixir. You idiot. 848 Romantic. Maybe 7. Her top priority here in Proud Snowfield was to get the internal elixir of that frosty night beast, which she would use as the core of her Tai formation. But Jun Linyuan had just fed the internal elixir to her. It was gone. Jun Linyuan was displeased by Feng Wu's reaction. He hadn't even thought about keeping the internal elixir for himself, and had fed it to her himself so that she wouldn't give it to Yuminji. And now, she was yelling at him. Hence, the two of them glared at each other, and the temperature in the tent began to rise. Feng Wu yelled, Jun Linyuan. What were you thinking? You fed the internal elixir to me? Jun Linyuan's face turned livid. He had saved the internal elixir just for her, and she was yelling at him now. He felt so wronged. Feng Wu went on. What good will it do me? You could have given it to Yuminji. He needs extra help. The crown prince was furious. Feng Wu glared at him. Quit staring at me. Am I wrong? Jun Linyuan had enough. Staring at Feng Wu, he pointed at Yuminji. Do you care about him that much? He was so mad. He wanted to cut Yuminji into little pieces. Feng Wu snorted. Of course. He saved my life. Jun Linyuan almost had a heart attack. He saved your life. When did that happen? Feng Wu snorted. I'll skip what happened before and tell you the most recent incident. If he hadn't saved me from those Qilin beasts, I would have been killed. Jun Linyuan drew in his breath. Blue veins popped in the corner of his forehead. He wanted to throttle Feng Wu. How do you know it was him? What question is that? It's so obvious. Feng Wu smirked. Who else could it have been? You? Why couldn't it be me? Ha! Feng Wu sneered at him. Your Royal Highness, saving people really isn't your forte. You're much better at killing. Back in North. Feng Wu stopped abruptly. She almost let it slip. If she mentioned what happened with the eagle, she would be telling him that she was that ugly girl. Hence, Feng Wu cleared her throat. Anyway, it won't be the first time you turn away from someone that needs help. I turn away from those that need my help. I just saved that woman. Jun Linyuan exploded. He had done it for Feng Wu. Because at that moment, he had turned around to find Feng Wu staring at Gong Sun Qing. Jun Linyuan didn't want Gong Sun Qing to fall to the ground, for the gory scene might give Feng Wu nightmares. That was why he had given Gong Sun Qing a hand. But Jun Linyuan shouldn't have mentioned that, for Feng Wu flared up right away. Not only did the crown prince turn away from her in northern border city, he even tried to kill her. And what did he just do? He saved a girl in front of Feng Wu. Very nice. Feng Wu snorted. That's right. You saved Gong Sun Qing. How amazing. I'm sure you'll win her heart after saving her from distress. Everyone will be talking about it from now on. Jun Linyuan was infuriated. He should never have saved that woman. He glared at Feng Wu. You're impossible. I'm impossible. Me? Feng Wu snapped, you're impossible. Your whole family is impossible. 849 Interesting. Xian Yi and Feng Sun were eavesdropping outside, and both of them blanched at Feng Wu's words. That girl had just alluded to His Majesty. How bold. Jun Linyuan's face turned livid. Kicking the door open, he stormed out. Boss Jun, Xian Yi and Feng Sun followed him in a hurry. Turning around, Jun Linyuan stared at Xian Yi furiously. His gaze was so intense that it gave Xian Yi the creeps. Only then did Jun Linyuan turn back and march off. Everywhere he went, the ice cracked under his feet. It was only after the crown prince was out of sight that Feng Sun said indignantly, Xian II, what did you do to piss Boss Jun off this time? I didn't do anything. I told him something. That's all. Since when are you capable of doing that? You pissed Boss Jun off with just a few words. Wasn't Boss Jun supposed to go around with his poker face? Xian Yi rubbed his nose. What did he say? Well, he told the crown prince that girls were all petty, and as a guy, the crown prince should be magnanimous and offer her a way out. The girl would jump at the opportunity. However, Xian Yi rubbed his forehead in frustration. How was he supposed to know how badly the crown prince would handle this? What a waste of such a precious internal elixir. Feng Sun threw a dirty look at Xian Yi. Didn't you say that Boss Jun likes my sister? What are you going to say now? Xian Yi's mouth fell open. Go talk to Boss Jun. Please have him leave my sister alone. Xian Yi's mouth hung open. I'll go comfort that girl. Sigh. She's got such a big heart. Anyone else would have felt so defeated. Xian Yi's mouth remained open. The tent was some distance away from the crowd and most of the other people didn't hear what happened. Hence, the others didn't know about the quarrel between Feng Wu and Jun Linyuan. Feng Sun entered the tent to find his beloved sister sitting there, sulking. Hey, hey, Feng Sun patted Feng Wu's shoulder to make her look at him. What now? Feng Wu had yet to calm down from the quarrel and was still breathing hard. Sister, do calm down. That's just how Boss Jun is. You'll get used to it, ha ha ha. Get used to it? Why should I get used to him? He better stay out of my way. Feng Sun said, actually, he didn't mean it. Feng Wu said, no, he so did. Is it that serious? Yes, it is. Feng Wu snorted. Otherwise, why did he feed me the internal elixir of that frosty night beast? He was making fun of me. Feng Wu shuddered as she spoke. It was freezing. The cold was rising up from her dantian. Feng Wu felt as if her dantian had frozen up. So, you think Boss Jun was making fun of you by feeding you the internal elixir? Was he not? Feng Wu showed him her palm, which was covered in a thin layer of frost. It pained Feng Sun to see it. Why is this happening? Feng Wu smirked. I've swallowed the internal elixir of that frosty night beast, all right? It has the coldest energy you can possibly think of. Even if one wants to eat it, the thing has to be processed carefully by medicine refiners first. It can only be consumed once it's made into a potion. And what did he do? He just shoved it down my throat. 850 The Unfortunate. Feng Sun asked, how do you feel now? I have a headache as well as a stomachache. Wrinkling up her nose, Feng Wu looked out of sorts. She went on, how could he? The heart of frost essence was too precious to waste like this. Feng Sun said, but that wasn't the heart of frost essence. What? Feng Wu was baffled. Wasn't it the internal elixir of the frosty night beast? Why wasn't it the heart of frost essence? Because that wasn't the frosty night beast, not the real one. It was only a shadow of the real thing and didn't have all its abilities. That's why it only had the common internal elixir, and not the heart of frost essence. Feng Wu. So, the heart of frost essence is still out there? Of course. Feng Sun gloated. Boss Jun has had his eye on it all along. And if Boss Jun wants something, no one can take it from him. Feng Wu smiled a little. Really? He thought so. Back in Frozen Forest in northern Border City, she hadn't had any cultivation ability, but she had still been able to steal that immortal spiritual fruit from Jun Linyuan. Feng Wu darted a glance at Feng Sun. Has your boss Jun never failed? Of course. Are you sure? I think so. Really, really sure. Well. You know what? I'm going to tell you something, but you can't tell anyone else. Feng Wu grinned. What is it? Actually, Boss Jun was tricked once, and it was a pretty elaborate scam. We went into Frozen Forest when we were in northern Border City. Feng Sun then told Feng Wu everything. He almost burst into tears in the end. That ugly girl was so cunning. She just took off with that immortal spiritual fruit. I've never met such a cold-blooded girl. And I was so kind to her. Feng Wu rubbed her nose, feeling a little guilty. If Feng Sun knew that the girl he wanted to hunt down was standing right in front of him, would he beat the crap out of her right now? Feng Wu changed the subject. I'm starving. Do you have anything to eat? But Feng Sun was too absorbed in the subject to be distracted. He snorted. If I ever catch that girl, I'll starve her and won't let her sleep for 7 days. Feng Sun went on listing all the punishments he had in mind without knowing that Feng Wu was the ugly girl herself. However, Yu Minji noticed. He had woken up already, but was pretending to be asleep so that he could listen to Feng Wu and Feng Sun's conversation. When Feng Sun talked about what he would do to that ugly girl, Yu Minji observed the look on Feng Wu's face through narrowed eyes. He had had his suspicions when they were by the river. Now that he saw the look on Feng Wu's face, he was almost certain. Because Feng Wu looked too guilty and kept on trying to change the subject. So, little Feng Wu was that ugly girl in northern Border City. Yu Minji was overwhelmed by conflicted feelings. That ugly girl had made his life miserable. He had given that girl some pink pills and threatened that the poison would kill her. Afterward, he learned that those pink pills had been created by Feng Wu herself. 851 The Crown Prince and His Temper. So, if Feng Wu was that ugly girl, Yu Minji couldn't bring himself to think further along that line. And he had been tricked over and over again after the first time. How he wanted to spank that girl now. However, on second thought, he was the only one who knew that secret about Feng Wu. Neither Feng Sun nor Xian Yi knew. Not even Jun Linyuan. And he also knew about Feng Wu's cultivation ability, which none of those three guys had discovered. Yu Minji felt a sense of superiority. Poor Feng Wu. Even the wisest made mistakes sometimes, and she had just slipped up without knowing it. Just then, someone called outside. It's dinner time. Feng Sun pulled Feng Wu to her feet and said cheerfully, Come. Let's have something to eat. In the campsite. The mood was quite strange at the moment. So was the look on Xian Yi's face. To his surprise, instead of sitting all by himself, Jun Linyuan had joined the other candidates. The girls gathered around automatically as soon as he sat down. It was such a rare opportunity, and everyone wanted to grab the chance. Mu Yao Yao was the most aggressive one. She had successfully frightened away a few girls with the intimidating look in her eyes. However, Jun Linyuan spoke to Gong Sun Qing first. How are you doing? How are you doing? It was a simple forward question, but His Royal Highness had taken the initiative, which was enough to excite all the girls. His Royal Highness had struck up a conversation with a girl. Holy shit! Gong Sun Qing was dumbfounded. Her head went blank, the smile froze on her face, and she didn't even know where to put her hands. Next to her, Shi Xian was equally dumbfounded. But she came back to herself first and pinched Gong Sun Qing. Say something. Anything. His Royal Highness is talking to you. Gong Sun Qing blushed and bit her lower lip. The proud teenage girl was only able to reply in a whisper, All right. All right. Go on. Say something else. Right now, even those in front of the screen were shocked, let alone the candidates at the scene. What the heck? His Royal Highness spoke to a girl. That was unheard of. So much so that the news reached the Imperial Palace almost immediately. Jun Linyuan was talking to Gong Sun Qing, but his eyes were on that tent. Seeing Feng Wu come out, he smiled in a mesmerizing manner and turned his intense gaze on Gong Sun Qing. You've been holding your arm. Are you in pain? His deep voice had a majestic quality to it and all the girls were infatuated. Holy shit! Gong Sun Qing thought her head was going to explode. His Royal Highness cared about her. Was Shi Xian telling the truth? Just then, Jun Linyuan rose to his feet and left without looking in Feng Wu's direction. However, what he said was enough to set the campsite on fire. Gong Sun Qing wasn't the only one shaken. All the other girls had formed their own opinions. They had always thought that His Royal Highness was this unattainable figure who sat high on his throne. But what happened just then proved otherwise. 852 Because I am pretty. The look in his bright eyes was so gentle when he looked at Gong Sun Qing. Holy shit! In front of the screen. Elder Xianyuan cupped his hands at Gong Sun Lan and congratulated her. Elder Gong Sun, congratulations. The Gong Sun family is rising. Please don't forget your old friends. Gong Sun Lan was secretly elated. After all families wanted to marry their girls to Jun Linyuan. An entire clan would prosper for many years just by being associated with Jun Linyuan, to say nothing of a marriage contract. Despite her excitement, Gong Sun Lan only smiled and waved her hand. You flatter me. That was the most common greeting and nothing more. You're overthinking it. Oh my, Elder Gong Sun, you're too modest. This is His Royal Highness we're talking about here. When was the last time you saw His Royal Highness greet someone? Gong Sun Lan said, Well, I haven't. There you have it. Go and prepare. The royal family will be visiting you soon. Elder Xianyuan chuckled. In proud snowfield. Shi Xian was tugging at Gong Sun Qing and crying out in excitement, Sister Qing. Sister Qing. Congratulations. Congratulations. Shi Xian wasn't so sure before, but after what happened just then. All the girls knew what that meant. His Royal Highness is really. Gongsun Qing was still in a trance-like state. The happiness arrived so suddenly that she was still trying to digest it. Yes. Yes. He is. He really is. Shi Xian was thrilled. She then turned around and spotted Feng Wu. The smile disappeared from her face right away. Sister Qing, look. Someone's unhappy. Shi Xian didn't try to lower her voice and many heard her. They all turned to look at Feng Wu. Feng Wu didn't look her best at the moment and she was even frowning a little. So, Feng Wu's really unhappy. Are you kidding me? How can she be happy? After following His Royal Highness around for so long, His Royal Highness can't even be bothered to look at her. As soon as she started to work on Yuminji, His Royal Highness. I'd be so pissed if I were her. Look at her face. It's hilarious. Somehow, those girls just wouldn't leave Feng Wu alone. Now that they believed that Jun Linyuan was in love with Gongsun Qing, they still saw Feng Wu as their target. Feng Wu rolled her eyes at those words. Why won't they leave you alone? Feng Sun couldn't stand it anymore. Feng Wu said, because I'm pretty. Feng Sun sighed in resignation. This girl was unbelievable. Feng Wu, Gongsun Qing dragged Feng Wu away. Feng Wu didn't want to go with her, but Gongsun Qing moved too swiftly and the others were all helping her. Feng Wu couldn't throw her off right away. Well, she could, if she activated her spiritual essence. But she didn't want to be exposed just yet. Feng Wu, are you with Yuminji now? Gongsun Qing was finally back to herself, and she was glowing with excitement. "853 The Goddess, my senior sister." Feng Wu said, no. Feng Wu was the person Gongsun Qing wanted to hurt the most, but Shi Xian spoke before Gongsun Qing did. Feng Wu, did you see what happened? Do you think His Royal Highness has feelings for Sister Qing? Feng Wu rolled her eyes. Why are you asking me? I'm not Jun Linyuan. Shi Xian persisted. But His Royal Highness saved Sister Qing and he even asked after her himself. Don't you think that means something? Feng Wu sighed in resignation. I have no idea, seriously. Shi Xian snapped, why are you giving me attitude? You should be flattered that we're even asking for your opinion. Are you jealous or something? Feng Wu was speechless. She had nothing to do with any of this. He who had a mind to beat his dog would always find a stick. The last thing Feng Wu wanted was to get involved in the bickering. So, she quickly dragged Mu Yaoyao, the queen of bickering, into the fight. She had noticed that Mu Yaoyao had been grinding her teeth for a while. I'm sure Princess Mu has a lot to say on the subject. You better ask her, Feng Wu said with a smile as she rose to her feet. At the end of the day, it was all Jun Linyuan's fault. He could flirt with whoever he wanted, but couldn't he do it discreetly? He just had to let everyone see it, didn't he? Did he have any idea how easy it was to provoke these women? Crossing her arms, Mu Yaoyao leaned against a wall and smiled. Of course she would give you attitude. How else is she supposed to react? Shi Xian said, Princess Mu, do you think His Royal Highness? Mu Yaoyao's face darkened. What's your problem? Are you ever going to stop? Gosh, you're shameless. I bet you're so proud of yourself. Gongsun Qing's face darkened as well. Mu Yaoyao was openly attacking her. She leapt to her feet and glared at Mu Yaoyao. Looking over her shoulder, Feng Wu saw that the two girls were indeed turning against each other. This was going to be fun. Gongsun Qing snapped, Mu Yaoyao, what was that supposed to mean? You heard me. Don't understand Chinese, said Mu Yaoyao. Are you cursing me now? I'm just reminding you, everyone should know their rightful place. And I don't. How? Ha. You think you do? If that's the case, you won't be fantasizing about marrying His Royal Highness. Even with Feng Wu out of the picture, there's still Zhuo Qingwan. Gong Sun Qing's face turned livid. Mu Yaoyao snorted. My senior sister is the one with true phoenix blood, which makes her the only one worthy of His Royal Highness's affections. Who the hell do you think you are? You. Cheeks flushed with embarrassment, Gong Sun Qing raised a hand to slap Mu Yaoyao. Do you know how amazing my senior sister is? She's like a goddess. She became a spiritual elder when I left my sect the year before last. Even Elder Mystery was amazed by her achievements in cultivation and formations. She can fend off thousands of magical beasts with her spiritual zither. And she has obtained her phoenix wings already, with which she can fly. She's only 15 and she has obtained such achievements. In a few years. Gong Sun Qing, you're nothing compared with her. Gong Sun Qing's face was scarlet. She clenched her fists so tightly that her knuckles turned white. She wanted to hit Mu Yaoyao, but couldn't bring herself to do it. 854 Unexpected. 1. Mu Yaoyao said, I'm only telling the truth. What? You don't like it? Taking a deep breath, Gong Sun Qing smirked. Yes, Zhuo Qingwan is extraordinary, but so what? I don't have the extravagant hope of becoming His Royal Highness's official wife. As long as I can be with His Royal Highness, I don't care if I'm his concubine or even his maid. I just want to be with him. What about you? Gong Sun Qing stared at Mu Yaoyao. His Royal Highness doesn't like you at all. No matter how badly you wish for it. You bitch. No, you bitch. Thump. 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 Before long, bickering escalated into a physical fight. One naturally had some expectations of a fight between cultivators, but they would be disappointed. The two girls fought with their nails and teeth. SSSS, Feng Wu drew in her breath. That looked painful. Feng Sun shook his head. I didn't know girls could do that. Feng Wu darted a glance at him. Feng Sun waved his hand. I mean them, not you. That was more like it. Feng Sun stole a glance at Feng Wu when she was busy changing Yuminji's bandages. He then glanced at her again. Feng Wu threw a dirty look at him. What? Rubbing his hands, Feng Sun hesitantly said, well. Feng Wu sighed. Spill it. Are you sure? Speak. Feng Sun said, well. I thought you liked Boss Jun a lot, didn't you? Aren't you jealous now? After seeing how kind Boss Jun is toward Gong Sun Qing. Feng Wu tossed a towel at Feng Sun's face. When did I ever like your Boss Jun? But you did. Feng Sun recalled. You were in love with Boss Jun since you first saw him in Northern Border City. You even tried to climb into. Help. She's trying to kill me. The next moment, Feng Wu kicked Feng Sun out of the tent. However, Feng Wu still encountered an unavoidable situation when she walked out of the tent some time later. She spotted Gong Sun Qing, who was waiting for her a few steps away. There was a grim look on Gong Sun Qing's face, and it seemed like she wanted to bore 2 holes into Feng Wu with her eyes. After fetching some hot water, Feng Wu wanted to go back in, but Gong Sun Qing blocked her way. Wait. Feng Wu looked at her in bewilderment. Yes? Gong Sun Qing looked Feng Wu up and down in a contemptuous manner. Feng Wu wanted to walk around her. You have to be the most unlucky person here. Why does His Royal Highness dislike you so much? Gong Sun Qing said with a half-smile as she crossed her arms. Feng Wu didn't say anything. I'm sure you didn't mean to offend His Royal Highness, and you want him to like you, right? Feng Wu didn't say anything. If I can give you a hand in this matter, how will you repay the favor? Feng Wu frowned a little. What favor is that? Yes. Gong Sun Qing smiled. It's really simple. Gong Sun Qing smiled at Feng Wu. Everyone knows that His Royal Highness treats me differently. What do you think he will do if I put in a good word for you now? Nothing. Gong Sun Qing stiffened and stared at Feng Wu in displeasure. She snorted. You're saying that because you don't know what it feels like to be favored by His Royal Highness. You have no idea of the privilege it'll bring you. As a matter of fact, I can change your luck. $855 Unexpected. 2, is that so? If you want it. Feng Wu was intrigued. What was Gong Sun Qing getting at? She smiled. What do you want from me? Gong Sun Qing replied, it's very simple. Kill Mu Yao Yao for me. Feng Wu said, you think I'm able to do that? You're not, but after Prince Yu wakes up, you can ask him to do it for you. He won't even break a sweat. Well, I just don't like that Mu Yao Yao. Kill her for me and I'll put in a good word for you in front of His Royal Highness. Deal? Feng Wu rolled her eyes. Do you take me for an idiot? Put in whatever word you want. Just leave me alone. Nudging Gong Sun Qing out of her way, Feng Wu went back into the tent with her basin of water. Surprised by Feng Wu's reaction, Gong Sun Qing almost tripped. Hey! You ungrateful woman. Gong Sun Qing flared up. You'll see after I become His Royal Highness's woman. Meanwhile, a few girls, who had been hiding behind an ice wall, ran to her side. Sister Qing, you lost. Ha ha ha. Pay up. Sister Qing, that was unexpected. I thought we had her there and would make her fight to the death with Mu Yao Yao. But she wouldn't take the bait. This Feng Wu is cleverer than I thought. It was supposed to be a trap, and they were ready to laugh at Feng Wu when she agreed. But she turned it down. Sister Qing, His Royal Highness really has feelings for you, right? Gong Sun Qing gloated. Of course. Sister Qing, I have some freshly picked tea here. His Royal Highness probably doesn't have any hot tea in this abominable place. How about you make some for him? Gong Sun Qing hesitated. Are you sure about that? Of course. It's His Royal Highness we're talking about here. The feelings are mutual, and what's wrong with a cup of tea? Princess Mu has no reason to stop you. By now, all the girls were divided into two teams, Gong Sun Qing versus Mu Yao Yao. Feng Wu was the only one who remained neutral. Those who supported Gong Sun Qing were all prompting her to visit the Crown Prince. What was His Royal Highness doing at that moment? Xian Yi and Feng Sun had already built a neat log cabin for him. Even if he was only staying for the night, the Crown Prince's dwelling had to be in pristine condition, with all the necessary equipment on hand. And that was when Feng wasn't around. If the steward had been here, even the color of the logs had to be adjusted to the perfect shade. The window of the cabin opened up in the direction of the snow mountains in the distance, which made for a magnificent view. The cabin was plainly decorated with a wooden bed and a table. Jun Linyuan and Xian Yi sat opposite each other on rush cushions. And Jun Linyuan didn't look too good. His face was livid and he was giving off a cold air. Xian Yi couldn't stand the atmosphere anymore. He rose to his feet and wanted to leave the room. But sit your ass down. Jun Linyuan stared at him. All right, rubbing his nose, Xian Yi reluctantly sat back down. Aren't girls supposed to be jealous when the guys they like treat other girls nicely? Jun Linyuan glared at Xian Yi. Xian Yi nodded. That's right. And it's the same with guys. They don't like the girls they're fond of to be too close with other guys, too. Xian Yi thought he had made the hint obvious enough. Your Royal Highness, please listen to your heart. Something did click in Jun Linyuan's head at Xian Yi's words, but the Crown Prince was so absorbed in figuring Feng Wu out that he ignored it. $856 Unexpected. 3. Then why wasn't she angry? Jun Linyuan glowered at Xian Yi. Who wasn't angry? Oh, you mean little Feng Wu. Well, maybe she's still too young for that. Was that possible? Jun Linyuan rubbed his chin. So, she wasn't angry. Jun Linyuan frowned. Xian Yi said, well, she could be angry, but she might be too good at hiding her emotions. Jun Linyuan clenched his fists. So, was she angry or not? Did she care about him at all? Just then, there was a knock at the door. The interruption irritated Jun Linyuan. Whoever was at the door was senseless enough to enter the room without permission. Xian Yi's heart sank. Given the crown prince's temper, it was none other than Gong Sun Qing. However, Jun Linyuan's gaze lingered in her direction for a moment. The person he was staring at was Feng Wu, not Gong Sun Qing. Somehow, Feng Wu had come with all the other girls and was smirking at him from the door. Smirking? Why was she doing that? Gong Sun Qing thought the crown prince was looking at her and was thrilled. Your Royal Highness, here's some Shilua tea I just brewed. I didn't have much to work with here. I hope you don't mind. After that, Gong Sun Qing poured a cup of Shilua tea and handed it to Jun Linyuan with both hands. Outside, many girls were waiting. Gong Sun Qing had invited Feng Wu to come with her. Because she wanted to show Feng Wu how much the crown prince cared about her, and she wanted to prove that she had the power to persuade Jun Linyuan. Just then, Jun Linyuan saw that Feng Wu was blatantly sneering at him. He smacked the table. Gong Sun Qing had yet to put the cup down, and jumped at the sudden movement. Her hand jolted, and she spilled some tea on Jun Linyuan's sleeve. Jun Linyuan then took out a pouch from inside his sleeve and saw that it had been stained by the tea. The next moment, Jun Linyuan's face turned livid. The look he gave Gong Sun Qing was so fierce that it reminded her of a thunderbolt. That pouch was hideous. Why did His Royal Highness have it on him? It was like a joke. Your Royal Highness, let me wash that pouch for you. However, before Gong Sun Qing could finish her sentence, something astonishing happened. Jun Linyuan raised a foot and kicked Gong Sun Qing in the stomach. Oh God! Everyone was shocked. What just happened? The girls Gong Sun Qing had brought with her were even more shocked. They had expected to see Gong Sun Qing serve the tea and His Royal Highness look affectionately at her. However, none of that happened, and Gong Sun Qing was kicked out of the room. Yes. She flew out of the cabin. Gong Sun Qing couldn't believe what happened. She was kicked out of the window, flew through the air, then landed on the ground with a thump, making a large pit in the snow. She even forgot to climb out. Sister Qing. Sister Qing. What happened there? Shi Xian scrambled over and dug Gong Sun Qing out. Gong Sun Qing shook her head, and loose snow fell down from her hair. She was dumbfounded. She had no idea. A hush fell over the crowd. Many were exchanging looks. Didn't His Royal Highness like Gong Sun Qing? $857 Unexpected. 4. The Crown Prince was in love with her. Said who? However frustrated Mu Yao Yao was before, she was delighted by what just happened. She wanted to jump up and down and cheer. Cough, cough. Gong Sun Qing coughed all of a sudden and began to vomit blood. A clot of blood fell out of her mouth. Feng Wu had wanted to steer clear of this Gong Sun Qing business, but she was alarmed by the blood clot the latter spat out. She went up to Jun Linyuan and glared at him. Just because you're the crown prince doesn't mean you can do whatever you like. Jun Linyuan, do other people's lives mean nothing to you? I'm so disappointed. Feng Wu's eyes spat fire. Jun Linyuan's face turned livid and he clenched his fists. The murderous look in his eyes reminded the others of a lone wolf king. Everyone held their breaths for Feng Wu. That woman was so dead. Gong Sun Qing only spilled a few drops of tea and the crown prince was so mad that he kicked her out of the cabin. And what had Feng Wu done? She had scolded His Royal Highness relentlessly. She was so getting killed for this. Feng Sun was on edge and was ready to go to Feng Wu's rescue at any moment. However, to everyone's surprise, glaring was the only thing the crown prince did, until Feng Wu stormed off. He didn't explode like everyone expected. Feng Wu went up to Gong Sun Qing with a grim look on her face and told Shi Xian, "Move." Feng Wu. Gong Sun Qing was agitated as soon as she saw Feng Wu. She had practically dragged Feng Wu here to demonstrate how affectionate the crown prince would be with her. As it turned out, Gong Sun Qing was utterly humiliated. "Go away. I don't want to see you here. Wretch." In her agitation, Gong Sun Qing spat out another clot of blood. Shi Xian stared at Feng Wu and yelled, "Go away. We don't want you here." Feng Wu darted a glance at Gong Sun Qing. "I wouldn't stay here a second longer if it isn't for the fact that you're going to die." She was going to die. Everyone's eyes widened. Many had stayed behind to tease Gong Sun Qing, especially those on Mu Yaoyao's side. But now, no one knew what to say. "Are you saying I'm dying?" Gong Sun Qing wouldn't believe it. It was only a common internal injury, wasn't it? Feng Wu smirked. "What do you think you just spat out?" "What?" "Bits of your internal organs," Feng Wu said gravely. That was why she was so mad. Jun Linyuan had gone too far. He was still that guy from northern border city who didn't hesitate to kill a stranger. To him, other people were no more than ants, Gong Sun Qing or the ugly girl alike. My internal organs? Gong Sun Qing blanched. Shi Xian had some medical skills, and she had done particularly well on the medical questions in the written exam. So she went ghastly pale after examining Gong Sun Qing. How can this be? You have multiple injuries to your internal organs and you have internal bleeding. What are we going to do? You'll die from the blood loss. Sister Qing, it's true. Shi Xian was almost in tears. Everyone else stared at Feng Wu in disbelief. 858 Unexpected. 5. Only then did they remember that Feng Wu had gotten full marks in her written exam. That was to say, she had answered all the medical questions correctly. She had to be excellent in her medical skills. There's only one option for you. Feng Wu stared at Gong Sun Qing. Withdraw from the tryout and go find Master Chu. He's your only hope. Withdraw. No. Gong Sun Qing, withdraw now. Gong Sun Lan's authoritative voice rang out in Gong Sun Qing's ears. Gong Sun Lan's excitement had been completely replaced with rage. What Jun Linyuan did had utterly humiliated Gong Sun Lan. Gong Sun Qing had no other choice but to withdraw at the order. Gritting her teeth, she was about to hit the panic button when all of a sudden. Buzz. Their headbands made a strange noise. What was going on? All of a sudden. With a click, all sound was cut off. The bosses were still looking at the screen when the image disappeared. The screen turned completely black. What on earth was going on here? All their faces darkened. An incident on this scale was unprecedented. Gong Sun Lan was especially furious. She panicked. What's happening? Why is the image gone? Grand Secretary Fang, can you hear them? Gong Sun Lan realized that she had lost contact with Gong Sun Qing. Grand Secretary Fang tried and failed as well. Something had gone terribly wrong. Back in the snowfield, that sudden buzzing sound made everyone prick up their ears and look around suspiciously. They were still alarmed when the sound disappeared. Everything was back to normal. Only that, I can't withdraw, sob, it's not working. After all, Gong Sun Qing was only a teenage girl, and it was only natural for her to be flustered at the turn of events. Immediately, all eyes were on Feng Wu. Feng Wu sighed in resignation. Take her inside. Luckily, Feng Wu still had a tent left. Otherwise, her patient would freeze to death before she could treat her. Feng Sun tugged at Feng Wu's sleeve as the others carried Gong Sun Qing into the tent. Can you save her? Feng Wu said, don't get your hopes up. The looks the others gave the crown prince were even more awe-stricken and frightened. They reflected on themselves. His Royal Highness was indeed as merciless and lethal as he was rumored to be. He was so dangerous to be around. The little kindness the crown prince had shown had been mistaken for a change in his disposition. As a result, they had crossed the line. Gong Sun Qing thought the same. She had assumed too much because of what His Royal Highness said and had acted inappropriately. She believed that she was the victim of her own deeds. No one thought Jun Linyuan did anything wrong, for they believed that such was how he should behave. The crown prince was supposed to be unattainable and out of reach. For a moment, it was all hushed in the campsite. But it didn't last long. Someone whispered, "What was that buzzing sound?" "I have no idea." Communication went down all at once. "We've lost all means of communication with the outside world now. I'm beginning to freak out a little." (859) Unexpected. 6. Can the portal be opened again? Are we going to be locked in here forever? The more they discussed, the more flustered they became. Everyone was on edge. We're so lucky that we have His Royal Highness with us. Yes. Yes, that's right. With His Royal Highness here, there's no need to be afraid. I'm sure he'll get us out of here. But the question is, will His Royal Highness do that? That silenced everyone. The Crown Prince had no obligation to do that. What was more, being helpful had never been in his nature. At that thought, the candidates began to panic again. Feng Wu had no time for any of that. She was busy treating Gong Sun Qing. In his enraged state, Jun Linyuan hadn't even thought about controlling his strength, which was why Gong Sun Qing was so severely injured. However, would Jun Linyuan lose control over a few drops of tea? Looking up, Feng Wu saw the sky outside through the tent gap. It was overcast and the wind was howling. It looked ominous. In this sort of situation, it was very likely that Gong Sun Qing would become a burden to everyone else. Now that the way out had been cut off, would Gong Sun Qing die here? Jun Linyuan would be the one to blame if that happened. The only way for Gong Sun Qing to make a quick recovery was to use Feng Wu's blood. More precisely, to use her blood which contained the internal elixir of that frosty night beast. Feng Wu took out her dagger without hesitation. Thud. Blood gushed out. Ah! Shi Xian cried out in surprise and covered her eyes. She had never expected Feng Wu to slash her wrist open. Xiao Wu. Feng Sun cried out as well. Feng Wu ordered. Pry her mouth open. Yes, of course. Feng Sun and Shi Xian scurried to Gong Sun Qing's side and opened her mouth. Feng Wu sighed inwardly as she fed her own blood to Gong Sun Qing. She would never have to do this if it wasn't for the internal elixir she had swallowed. This was all Jun Linyuan's fault. While Feng Wu's mind was wandering off, Shi Xian observed Feng Wu with conflicted feelings. She recalled all the things Gong Sun Qing had said about Feng Wu this whole time, and how Gong Sun Qing had been showing off in front of the latter. But now, Feng Wu was saving Gong Sun Qing at the cost of her own life. Was Feng Wu really as bad as she was rumored to be? If she was a bad person, then what did a good person look like? Shi Xian was bemused. Is that enough? Is it? Feng Wu had yet to comment on her blood loss before Feng Sun cried out first. His voice was trembling. Feng Wu nodded after examining Gong Sun Qing, then gave Feng Sun instructions. Warm up the blood for her with your spiritual essence, then direct it to her injured internal organs. It should do the trick and repair them. Feng Wu swayed a little after those words. She hadn't fully recovered from her own blood loss earlier, and she had just given away some more. Her face was ghastly pale. Xiao Wu, you. Feng Sun doted on Feng Wu. Gong Sun Qing was the last thing on his mind, and all he wanted to do was check up on his dear little sister. However, Feng Wu shook her head. You can't let all my efforts go to waste. Feng Sun had no choice but to do as Feng Wu said. Feng Wu's face had drained of all color and she felt like she was going to black out. She sat down against the wall, crossed her legs, and rested in silence. You're tuning into the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.